right-hand panel to submit your questions throughout today's live cast. If the Q&A function does not automatically appear, you can open this function by clicking on the button with the 3 small dots on the bottom of your screen. And it's not too late to invite a colleague to today's BI livecast. So if you know someone who may be interested in this topic, feel free to forward them the same URL you used to log in. For anyone not available during today's live, they will be able to watch today's series on demand. We will send a follow-up email with this information after the webinar. If you're looking for a dial-in number, this livecast can be dialed into. Open the same widget as the Q&A and choose audio connection. Then provide your phone number for a dial-in. This will give you an audio connection, but not a visual. For the best WebEx experience, we suggest having a visual open on your computer. And we recommend closing out all of the browsers and tabs on your computer for the best possible connection. Lastly, for a great viewing experience, change your WebEx viewing screen to grid view. You can find this option in the top right corner of your screen. Also, be sure to engage with us on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag BILivecasts. And thank you to Cisco WebEx for being the official technology partner of Brand Innovators Virtual Summits and facilitating a great virtual event experience. We hope you're looking forward to today's livecast. We are going to be hearing from marketing leaders from Kellogg, Burn, Nestle, Genex, and more. Without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce our first session of the day. We have a fireside chat with Brittany Lambs from Kellogg's and David McCarley of Treasure Data. Brittany is the Global Director of Shopper Marketing at the Kellogg Company. She drives the shopper marketing capability across brick and mortar and e-commerce channels throughout the Kellogg's portfolio. She also is responsible for the global shopper marketing for Pringles, Cheez-It, and Special K. Prior to Kellogg's, Brittany invested her career at companies like Newell Brands, Home Depot, Coca-Cola, Hilton, and Cinnabon. This session will be moderated by David McCarty, Director of CPG Solutions at Treasure Data. Welcome to the stage, Brittany and David.
Thank you, Pearl. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hosting us and for all the great work you at Brand Innovators do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can you see and hear me as well?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you, Pearl.
So,
alrighty. Take the stage.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Pearl. And Brittany, again, thank you for joining us on this. I really appreciate your time. So why don't we go ahead and just get started? I think, when we think about the elephant in the room right now, it's about the pandemic and the broad market changes that we've been seeing. And, the COVID pandemic really drove a lot of acceleration of e-commerce adoption, as well as really strong growth for many, many product categories like Kellogg's. Do you see these trends to be sticky, or will consumer behaviors go back to the way they were before COVID, more shopping in store and less online?
Yeah, so we've definitely seen, as well as many other CPGs and non-CPGs have seen a significant increase in e-commerce activity. Specific to Kellogg's, our Q3 results for e-commerce, we were up triple digits. We were up 104% globally with our e-commerce business, and year to year, we're up 98% with our e-commerce business. And October closed out, Q3 closed out at about $800 million in e-commerce sales. So let's see what happens to get to that $1 billion mark by the end of the year. I think it could happen. So yeah, definitely more of a pivot and an increase into e-com. We were already seeing that acceleration across the board before COVID, but COVID definitely accelerated it. And the companies that were prepared were able to grasp that opportunity. Unfortunately, there were probably a lot of companies who were not yet prepared, who had to do a bit of scrambling. And what I can say about Kellogg's, and what I'm very proud to say, is that about 2 years ago, Kellogg decided to invest in several key pillars, one being the e-commerce capability. And through various resources and partnerships, as well as bringing on board the right talent, we were able to capitalize on the unfortunate events of COVID because we were ready for what it provided. I would say from our category standpoint, your question was kind of about e-commerce as well as a resurgence of brands. And it's also been exciting to see that 5 of our 6 categories across cereal, salty snack, crackers, frozen, bars, and our meatless category, 5 out of 6 categories have seen share gain this year, which is very exciting. And I think that that's largely because, on the topic of brands at home, which is where we're at today, largely because families are spending a lot of time at home. I know you and I both are quite ready to get out of our home at some point. But during that time, and especially, March, April, when COVID was picking up, consumers and shoppers were reaching for brands that provided them comfort, that they were familiar with, as well as because a lot of eating occasions are happening at home, there was the need to increase, breakfast offerings, lunch offerings, afternoon snack offerings, which, in a former world may have been purchased on the go. So again, we've seen significant gains across our cereal category, our salty snacks category, frozen, as well as even our plant-based protein category as well. Do I think that the trends are sticky? It's interesting with e-commerce. Definitely, a lot of the behaviors will remain sticky. There was a piece of data released, I think around June, that said 40% of new shoppers on Instacart were first trials of the platform. So I definitely think that this has accelerated what we call omni-channel. Do I think that we'll still see the acceleration that we've had? My personal opinion is that it will begin to flatten out because a lot of studies do show that shoppers also miss going to the store. And I know some are still going to the store and doing e-com. That's how I shop myself. I shop in multiple channels. So I think the key is always going to be that, in every effort, it's to make sure that you're approaching it in an omni-channel way. You're preparing for e-com, you're preparing for brick and mortar and the multiple channels that includes, because you've got to be able to meet the shopper's needs wherever they are within that path to purchase journey. And then lastly, as far as sticky for our brands and our categories, we certainly hope that those behaviors are sticky, and we're already doing and continue to plan to do whatever we can to maintain those shopping and consumption behaviors with those that were already shopping our categories, as well as those who have come back into the category due to COVID.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on such phenomenal results. And I know that our household helped contribute to some way to a number of those brands. So congratulations.
So did mine.
Probably a lot of the audience did as well, right?
Yeah.
So, kind of speaking of this shift from to e-commerce, right? So that's going to change a lot of the dynamics from a shopper marketing perspective. And so what are you seeing kind of from any significant shifts from trade promotion to shopper and digital marketing? Like what are some of the major trends you see there?
So there was certainly a right sizing of investment and where the dollars go. Definitely for Kellogg, as well as many of my other CPG friends, there was a lot of taking from in-store, shopper and trade dollars and applying that to the e-com channel, whether that be, purchasing media slots, paid search, investing in ratings and reviews to boost organic search rhythm. So there definitely was that right sizing of investment at first. During Q2, a lot of retailers halted their promotions, and this is something we not only saw in North America, but saw across the globe. But many resumed promotions in Q3. Back to school was a recent one that was, it was successful both online as well as in store. So, even though there was that right sizing and the teams learned a lot from it and learned that, this is a behavior that needs to continue when we budget, again, the key being preparing for omni-channel shopping behaviors, meeting the consumer and the shopper wherever they may be across that funnel, and making sure that e-com is budgeted correctly, and making sure that in-store is budgeted correctly. Because even though e-com is seeing, the triple-digit growth numbers that we just experienced in Q3, largely for a food and beverage manufacturer, e-commerce still only represents about 6 to 9% of the overall business. So, we can't forget about brick and mortar, but we certainly need to make sure that new emerging channels of shopping are properly supported.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It really does. You can't, those numbers do kind of attract the attention, but there's still an awful lot of foot traffic in good old brick and mortar, right? So,
Oh yeah.
you know, kind of continuing this theme of e-commerce, specifically, there's e-commerce, and then within e-commerce, there's direct to consumer, there's DTC. What strategies around DTC is Kellogg's embarking on?
So a couple of weeks ago, a colleague of mine, Jordan Narchuti, presented with brand innovators about our D2C strategy at Kellogg's. It's definitely a new capability that we've built within Kellogg's, and that we're looking to scale across all of our regions as quickly as possible. I think what's important to call out is that the key with D2C is that it's got to be a unique proposition for the consumer and the shopper. What you don't want to ever do is take exactly what you sell in brick and mortar or a retailer's e-commerce platform and also sell that on a D2C platform as well. That causes a lot of channel conflict. The opportunity that D2C provides is personalization of products that you can't find in a typical retail environment. It's opportunity to test flavors that you can't find in store. It's an opportunity to also test new innovation and to launch it digitally first, see how it performs, see what feedback you get, and then be able to take that to retailers for possible buy-in. So, the strategy has to be in place to do D2C. Specific to Kellogg, we've, in the last couple of weeks, very exciting, we've launched our first D2C, our 100% D2C brand in Europe called M-Well. It is a microbiome product. It's a powder that you mix into smoothies, juices, or even sprinkle onto cereal that promotes, the well-being of gut health. So again, we're very excited about that launch, looking to scale a lot of the learnings that went into that launch into other D2C projects across the globe. So,
I think your point about you can't just have it, just be a replacement for, conventional retail, if you will. It has to drive innovation is so spot on. And I hope folks listening to this really pay attention to that, 'cause I think that's a really, really key message. Let's pivot a little bit, talk about, data and information. So as we move into, for example, D2C, that becomes a data source, right? First party data. So how are you seeing data and information changing, right, in terms of data sources from a consumer engagement perspective? And it could be D2C or maybe even other available data sources.
Yeah, data, and especially first party data, is a top priority for Kellogg's this year and in the next couple of years. We don't struggle with capturing data. We've got in North America, we've got over 20 million line items in our first party database through Kellogg's Family Rewards. I think the opportunity that we have is to develop the infrastructure to utilize that first party data. And we already do from a CRM standpoint, from a surveying and research standpoint. But I think a true unlock happens when you take first party data and apply that into your media buying strategies. I think that's where the true unlock is. So I'm really excited to see what Kellogg's does with all of the data that we have in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. 20 million consumers. That's terrific. Congratulations to that. That's awesome. That's oftentimes a struggle for CPG companies is having that volume of first party data. So that's really terrific. So kind of continuing on that theme, I'm sure those 20 million consumers, a good number of those are millennials and maybe even older Gen Zers, right? And millennials and Gen Zers, those consumers really crave authenticity, brands with purpose, and having that emotional connection with the brands they purchase. So, what strategies are you executing to truly know those consumers to ensure relevance at each touch point of their consumer journey?
Well, I think actually that a lot of the data that we have, you have to remember they're shoppers. So a lot of the consumers are that Gen Zer and younger millennials. Certainly you have an older millennial, but it's really more of the Gen Xers that are more of the shopper within the database we have. So, but I think to the question of, capturing authenticity with consumers, I think it's something that we want to do. I think it's something that we have opportunity to improve upon. I think when it comes to shoppers and being authentic with shoppers, it's all about making sure that your shopper strategies in play are tailored to the right audience and are tailored to the needs of the shopper. But I think in that aspect of, creating personalization, Kellogg's, we've got a ways to go there.
Yeah, it's not an easy nut to crack, right? So I think that's a journey that a lot of CPG companies and food and beverage companies are on. So, in the intro, your title, you have a global role, right? And so I think that provides you probably an interesting perspective to see maybe any interesting differences or nuances or opportunities from a shopper marketing perspective between geographies. So any kind of insights in those areas?
Yeah, it's exciting having a global role. So I, oversee shopper strategy in North America, Latin America, Europe, as well as EMEA or APAC, as some would call it. And it's very interesting to see the nuances in shopping behaviors and how that differs within. One example is that we recently launched a global shopper study for our salty snack category. I hope to do the same with cereal in the coming year. But we did that study across all 4 of our regions, so and included 10 different countries within. And the findings were very interesting in that a lot of the need states for shopping the salty snack category were the same across the board. But the differences that we saw was the occasion being shopped for, as well as what channel is being shopped. So, for example, if you think about Italy and France, Apéro is a large occasion there. It's actually an occasion I think that would be really fun if we also took advantage of. What it is it's before dinner, and it's a time where friends and families come together. They have some drinks and snacks, almost like a pre-party before dinner. It is called Apéro, and it happens during like the 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. timeframe. So, Apéro is a large occasion that's shopped for in Italy and France. But if you think about Mexico, that's not an occasion that's shopped for, right? So it's very interesting with the occasions that are shopped for and how that differs across the globe. I'd say also channel is very interesting as well. If you think about the country of Brazil, mom and pop convenience stores are essential to the bloodstream of Brazil. And not just your convenience store like you would see a Circle K or a Shell, but I'm talking about mom and pop bodega convenience stores. And that's a massive channel in Brazil. Whereas, that's not a channel that's in the consideration set for Korea, right? So it's, as we're putting together macro global strategies for our global brands like Pringles, what will be Cheez-It and Special K, it's extremely important to keep those channel considerations in mind as well as occasion considerations in mind.
Yeah, I guess it speaks to how vital having, data and information so you can truly understand those nuances and have the appropriate messaging and marketing tactics and campaigns, so on and so forth. So
Exactly.
I think that's where, the size and scale of a Kellogg's can really come in as be a good differentiator and as a real strength for you as an enterprise. That's awesome. So, well,
yeah, we try to. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was going to say we try to capitalize on scalability as much as possible. One example I can give is even with shopper marketing measurement. It's a big hot spot for a lot of CPG companies right now. Our European team approached and said they really want to streamline the way that they're measuring shopper activity, as well as North America wanted to do the same. And so, with me having, eyes on our global activity, being able to merge some of these macro work streams together so that we can hold hands and do things as a global entity provides incredible scale.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think, historically, a lot of the advantage of a large CPG company from a scale perspective was in distribution and manufacturing, but now you're able to leverage that scale more from an information and an analytics and a data perspective and a best practices. That's really pretty cool.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
So I guess one last question, and we'll pivot again a little bit here and talk about innovation, which is so important to CPG companies, right? Innovation, you can almost argue, is the lifeblood of a CPG, to always be innovating around product, et cetera. And I'll give you kind of a quick personal story with a Kellogg's brand that I know and love, and that's Bare Naked granola. And a few years back, there was an ability to make custom granola through, actually, I was working at IBM at the time, and it was using IBM Watson. And IBM Watson had developed this kind of taste parameters, and it would match different flavor profiles and basically help define what flavors would taste well or taste good together, give you a score of complementary taste, right? And it was really interesting. Some things were like, you could make granola, it was chocolate, red wine, and maybe almonds, and it might give you a score of like 90, and those flavor profiles would work well together. And so I would order these different granolas and use them as conversation starters when I'd visit prospects. They were just great. They came in this really cool can with a bear on it. You could customize. You could even put a picture of yourself on the bear and give it a name. It was amazing.
That's a good D2C offering.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm probably in that database somewhere, right? The funny thing is, what was so amazing to me was just how efficient it was. I could order like on a Monday and it get delivered on like a Thursday, Friday, which is just blew me away that it could be done that quickly. So it's really cool. But long story short, that was just, I thought, a phenomenal example of innovation that Kellogg's has. But what are some other examples of innovation from a shopper consumer engagement perspective that you're seeing?
Yeah, two innovations that we've released in the last year that I'll speak to. One being Crunchy Nut peanut butter spread. Probably something that a lot of the U.S. folks on the call haven't heard of, but in the U.K., one of our top sellers in cereal is called Crunchy Nut, and it's incredible. I wish I could travel over there right now and bring back a couple of boxes. But actually, in this case, one of our internal sales colleagues had an idea one day of taking the Crunchy Nut cereal and expanding it to another category into spreads. And so within a year, we were able to develop the Crunchy Nut peanut butter spread. Of course, making sure to do all the right insight checkpoints, making sure that it would be a viable product that would sell. And of course, because it was a much loved cereal, having the opportunity to have the product in a spread was a home run. So that product was commercialized in under a year. You know, that's one example of great innovation coming from within, and just our colleagues thinking through the brands, you know, that we have, and thinking through how they can live in multiple channels. Another example of brands living in multiple channels would be Pop-Tarts. We recently partnered with Good Humor, and you can now get a Pop-Tart ice cream bar in brown sugar cinnamon flavor. They're very good. You know, while that's more of a licensing play, you know, both are still the same from an innovation standpoint. Is how do we take our beloved brands that consumers love and provide them in multiple formats and in multiple categories. Another example, we a couple months ago launched our jumbo cereal snacks. So if you think about Corn Pops, Frosted Flakes, as well as Fruit Loops, through some occasion-based research that we did in 2019, just learning that, you know, a lot of consumption of cereal occurs as a snack. It occurs as an afternoon snack, or for me, an evening snack, sometimes before bed. And, you know, what consumers were wanting is the taste of cereal, but in an on-the-go, more more functional eating opportunity. You know, if you're on the go, like we have been or were before COVID, you can't really drive in the car with a bowl and a spoon. And so what we did is we took these cereals that are so loved, and we made them really large, and we made them so that they could be, you know, just eaten with your hand. So again, those are Kellogg's Jumbo Snacks, another really exciting innovation. You know, Kellogg's innovation is extremely exciting to see the pipeline that we've got over the next 5 years in all of our categories, exploring flavor, exploring different categories that our brands can play. But I think what's always really important to keep in mind is that there's got to be a balance between, this has always been my mantra at every company I've been at, if you're going to launch a product, you've got to have a strong commercial launch plan in place, or that product's just going to sit on the shelf. And you've got to balance how many innovations you're going to put out, because again, if you can't substantially support each innovation, then that's not the right path to take. So again, innovation, while it's extremely important, you've also got to make sure that your baseline product is covered, and that velocities are high with those products going off the shelves as well.
That makes a ton of sense. Is that Good Humor brown sugar Pop-Tart available in the U.S.?
Yeah, that one actually is in the U.S. You know, I was down in Georgia recently, and I saw it in Publix, in the freezer section at Publix. But I think it's definitely at like the Krogers of the world, Walmarts of the world. I have not seen it at like a Jewel Osco, but it may be there.
Well, I'm in Cincinnati, so I'll go to Kroger and look, because that's my favorite Pop-Tart flavor is the brown sugar.
Brown sugar cinnamon.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Makes me hungry thinking about it. So, well, thanks, Brittany, for those insights. I guess we can now open it up for questions. Let's see here. I can open the QA.
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, there's a few here. I'm just reading through.
Oh, okay.
So here's an interesting one. Many brands have drastically reduced media budgets over the past few months. How has your media plan adjusted? If your budget has been reduced, have you gotten more creative and efficient with your strategies? I guess there's probably got to be a little. Hopefully, you can answer that to some degree.
Yeah, there's been a lot of companies that have had to reduce media spend and just overall ad spend due to the pandemic. Fortunately, Kellogg has not been one of those. We've actually we're now double downing on spend to grow our brands. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to answer that question because we're fortunately right now able to really invest in our brand growth.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Here's a question that it's kind of similar to when we first started out talking about the stickiness of shopping behavior, but this is a little bit broader. It says, when everything is back to normal, how will your industry have changed permanently? So I guess it's, it's broader than maybe buying. I mean, it could be, in terms of, will it be changes from a supply chain perspective? I wonder.
Yeah.
Maybe that's outside, your remit to some degree, but kind of interesting to get your point of view on that.
Yeah, I think that's the question. And, and it's like, what is normal? When will it be normal? But I think once we do get to that point, and hopefully sooner rather than later, I think there's a couple of things we'll be able to look back on. I think, first of all, definitely supply chain. I've been extremely proud of how the supply chain across the globe at Kellogg's has been able to get the cereal to the people. We've, of course, with many CPGs, there was initial struggles with out of stocks, but I'm really proud in our supply chain with how they've adapted. And, as well as you think about, demand planners, sales teams, just making sure that product is on the shelf and that cereal and other snacks get into people's hands. So I think definitely a supply chain standpoint. I think also from a way that we plan 360 consumer and shopper experience activations. I think that this has created a bit of a mandate for companies to look at 360 touch point activation, what we call kind of omni-channel activation, and has made companies think, is putting all of our dollars in traditional media the right thing, even though it provides higher ROI metrics? Is that really the right thing, or do we need to double down and invest in digital and making sure that we're capturing the consumer in a multi-touch point fashion? So, definitely in how we plan activation. I think it's also impacted our innovation funnel. I think it's again created opportunities for our foods to play in multiple food formats as well as in multiple categories. I think it's also impacted, of course, it's impacted shopper for all the reasons we've talked about today. But I think the most important impact is internal impact, and internal for the organization and the people within the organization. For Kellogg, it has supplied a resiliency that we couldn't be more proud of. And it's almost, though this hasn't been the perfect situation, we've been able to move, not skipping a beat. And I think that it's opened our eyes to how nimble we can be and how resilient we can be. Of course, we'll be thankful when this is over. But those are a couple of the things that I would call out when we return back to normal of some of the things that we've learned.
No, I think those are really good points. And you know what, you mentioned this nimbleness. I've seen that at other CPG companies that I've worked with and talked to, that the ability to work in an agile and super fast a faster pace than historically they were able to do. I think they've said, wow, we can do this. We can operate at this pace and kind of flatten some of the hierarchies and shorten some of those, whether it's development timelines for a technical innovation or new products. I think that will also kind of be permanent and stick because they're, now that you know that you can work at that speed and pace, you want to continue to do so. So
Right. Yeah, I agree. Of course, you don't want to get to a point where you're reckless.
Right.
There's definitely opportunity to enhance those long stage gate processes.
I think a quote there, like, agile but not reckless. That's kind of the, I guess, the key there.
Exactly.
Well, here's a question that's a little bit closer to home for you.
Okay.
What is the role of programmatic media buying to support shopper marketing efforts? How does that interplay with the brand's overall marketing investments, direct or via your agencies?
I got to tell you, I would have to refer you to our media experts. I don't claim to be one. I'm a marketer, not a media expert. So unfortunately, I'm not going to attempt to answer that question.
Okay, no worries.
We have fantastic agencies who are, partner with our shopper teams and would be better suited for that.
Okay, well, here's maybe a fun one for you. What has been your most successful marketing program?
Oh, wow. It hasn't been at Kellogg yet. And I say yet because we've got some exciting things coming that I can't share. But I'm hoping that one of those will be. I would say some of my most effective examples were when I was with Cinnabon. Cinnabon it's a mall brand, it's an airport brand. Before COVID, obviously travel wasn't impacted, but mall traffic significantly declining, closing stores left and right. And my responsibility was taking that brand as well as some other brands like Auntie Anne's Pretzel, Moe's Southwest Grill, Schlotzsky's, Carvel Ice Cream, and thinking through their channel strategy. So how could we take them out of the restaurant, out of the bakeries, out of the malls, and how can we get them into multiple channels? And so I would say, several product launches, whether it be 5 Moe's breakfast bowls, at every Walmart and Kroger, that I was able to commercialize within 18 months, definitely was one of the wins there. I would also say the creation and commercialization of 18 SKUs of Cinnabon baked goods into grocery and food service channels was probably also my primary win.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I haven't traveled in so long. I forget how wonderful it is to walk through an airport and smell the pretzels. It's either Cinnabon or the Indian pretzels. Oh man, so tempting. So tempting.
Yeah, those examples feel like a lifetime ago though. But
don't they? Oh,
yeah.
We'll get back. We'll get back.
Yeah.
When it comes to communicating with your consumers, how do you think about brand purpose and how does that impact your approach to marketing?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously at Kellogg, we not only take brand purpose seriously, we take, our company's purpose very seriously. We actually just relaunched our company vision last week. I don't know it off the top of my head. I should, but it level sets on providing fulfilling food to those around the world. And I think that where our brands can play there is from a consumption standpoint is first of all providing brands that are comfortable, brands that our consumers have grown up with, that are nostalgic, but also providing brands that may be new to a consumer, It's exciting. One of the projects we've got going on next year will do just that. And so I think, capitalizing on that brand purpose, I think we do a great job of that at Kellogg. But what we also do at Kellogg that many other CPGs do is we do a lot of scalability. So if you think about it, instead of spending X amount of dollars on, if you think about the cereal category, you've got a multitude of cereal brands. It could get a bit cluttered if you're investing in every cereal brand. And so what we strive to do is elevate that to a more macro level of Kellogg's cereals with different choices, but ultimately capitalize on what our cereals can provide versus necessarily focusing on Corn Pops, Fruit Loops, Frosted Flakes, Crave. Right. Even though each brand has a purpose, it serves a different purpose within that macro portfolio message.
Yeah, you're basically a branded house versus a house of brands. I mean, you are a house of brands, but you try to elevate it, as you said, the discussion.
Exactly.
So, here's a question, and this maybe you can't answer because it's a little bit more on the media side, but I'll read it anyways. How do you approach emerging media channels, and how do they factor into your overall strategy?
Yeah, I mean, again, I am blessed to have large teams and media experts that handle all of that and all of, emerging media channels. What I would say was a large emerging media channel for us this year was click to cart technology, of course, with e-commerce, and leveraging the likes of a Micmac for a lot of that e-commerce shopping from a mobile device. But again, I am not a media person, so I'm not going to answer that.
No problem.
Thank you, though.
No problem. Well, I think that I don't see any more questions coming in.
Well, seems like we've hit right on the mark of 12:45 or 1:45.
Well, golly, yeah,
you guys did great.
Almost like we planned it. That's pretty cool.
It's such a fresh breath of air to hear the success that you've had. I mean, we've heard across the industry how people are cutting their media spends and are cutting their teams, and it's just great to see that you guys are still feeding the world and becoming more nimble and strategic with the kind of products you're launching and utilizing D2C to be more creative with innovating on different flavors and products. I mean, even though we have all these great omni-channel abilities to reach all your products, I would love to eventually go back into one of those Kellogg's Cafe. I remember the one that you used to have in Union Square, and I was just reminiscing about it with one of my colleagues. We like got so many treats there, and then we worked in that cafe looking above the park.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great to experience the brand that way.
Yeah,
one day.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, Thanks, we hope to have you both back again soon.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Well, that was a great way to kick off the day. Thanks so much for Brittany and David for taking the time to join us. Hopefully we'll hear from them again soon. So now we're going to continue, and we'll be hearing from the founders of Burn. A lot of you may not have heard of them, but being from New York City and experiencing all the fitness options, I used to have been able to experience them quite often. So in May 2018, Jimmy Martin and Johnny Endemic opened Burn, the world's first cool temperature boutique fitness concept and lifestyle brand. And in July of this year, Burn expanded offline with the direct-to-consumer launch of its first at-home fitness product, the Burn Board, and a monthly on-demand subscription service. Hey, Jimmy and Johnny.
Pearl, what's going on?
Pearl.
Hi. It's so great to see your faces.
I know.
It's great to see yours.
I think the last time we saw in person, we were in an ice bath together. But
yeah, I missed those.
Yes.
I'm in Salt Lake City now, so me and Avi are going to go in a real real
So jealous.
icy river
Lucky
soon.
you. Lucky you. Oh my
I think
God.
we're just waiting for your moderator to come on. But let me give the audience some fun facts about you guys. You guys are the most fun people I know. So Jimmy is a former Division I athlete. He has previously worked on Saturday Night Live. And Johnny is a former public health official for New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg on his obesity task force. Johnny was also previously Bucky the Badger for the University of Wisconsin. And Jimmy used to write greeting cards. Which one was your favorite one, Jimmy?
The ones that sold. Those were my favorite ones.
Do you have like a Etsy or something for some of your greeting cards?
Yeah. So I had worked for a company for a little bit called Noble Works. They were kind of like an irreverent greeting card company, and then I branched off and sold a concept to Zazzle, which was bromantic greeting cards called Handsomely Yours. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I still sometimes freelance and write some stuff. It's a fun little writing exercise, but yeah, but it was good. It was good. So I always have a card ready for the holiday.
Explains how quirky the brand is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One guy that likes to wear tights and another guy that likes to wear fur. You know, it's
I like
it's
both.
true, right?
Fur and tights go great together.
If it's not tight, it's not right. That's what we say. Well, we as in I say that, and no one.
So tell everyone what you did at Burn, Pearl, pre-pandemic.
Oh boy!
In how long you lasted in that ice bath?
Well, my first experience with Burn was through ClassPass. I was like, what is this 4-hour class that I'm about to take? I show up. Well, first you guys tried to kick me out because it was like a $200 course on how to take an ice bath and breathe. And you're like, no, let's just have her take this and see how she does. And I end up being the MVP now. No,
That's
I
right.
wanted to stay in
That's right.
forever in the ice bath.
That's
you
right.
hit like 5 minutes, I think. You were just like writing your diary in there. You were having a grand old time.
I mean, I was just doing it for the gram, of course.
You were good though, natural.
Yeah, and then I came back maybe like three or four more times.
Yeah,
dunking my head and all.
It's amazing. Supporting us.
It was a happy accident.
Always. I can't wait to finally land in a real house and have a board of my own.
Well, that will happen very soon.
So it looks like Sai has made it. Hi, Sai.
Hey guys, just
yeah, you're coming a little in and out. Okay, so yeah, if you stop the video, might be a little better. Can you hear us okay? How about we put on the video that you sent us so the audience can get a bit of a visual on Burn while Sai figures out his internet.
Sounds great.
Hey, my internet went down here, so yes. All right.
Woo! We did it. We showed the video. It worked.
So where are you planning to release this video? Is it going to go during the Super Bowl or is it for IG?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Hopefully the Super Bowl. We just have to raise like $5 million to hopefully do that. So No, we actually just shot our first commercial a few weeks ago. It's gonna be a 15-second spot, so it's great because I'll explain the interview, but like having worked in advertising, it's like a dream come true to kind of now do it for our company, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I love it. It looks great.
Pearl, it looks like you're going to be moderate. Oh, so Sai's back. Sai's back. The internet is.
We can hear you, Sai.
It's a wonderful thing, but oh man, I empathize with you, Sai, because of the pandemic, we had to move to my in-laws' house in Minnesota. When you have a baby that's a year old and you live in an East Village apartment in Manhattan on the 5th floor and there's a pandemic, you have to move in with your in-laws because it's a lot of work. But there's no internet here, so I basically had to build a telecom company. You make do, and I have total empathy for you, Sai. So don't worry about it. Pearl, it looks like you're going to be moderating.
Happy to. I mean, I know enough about you guys and the industry. But I think Sai is here. So Sai is Isabel. I think she was to take over. Oh, he's not coming back. All right. Well, anyways,
Look at
I'm
that
happy
remix.
to take
I love
over.
It. I love this. This is what brands are about. It's figuring things out.
Yeah.
And don't like think, be on your toes, not your heels. So let's do it. I should get an ice bath ready to go. We can make this a nice, cool conversation.
Let's make this interactive.
100%.
If I knew, I would have made Avi come over. He's 2 blocks down, and we would do a breath session right now.
He's that close. Oh my gosh.
Jeez,
yeah, we happen
cool.
to choose an Airbnb 2 blocks from my best friend.
That's incredible.
Well, why don't you guys start off with telling us a little bit about your founder story and how this all started, and then you can transition to like how you guys have pivoted and how you guys become a challenger brand.
Totally. Johnny, rock, paper, scissors?
Right, rock, paper, scissors. All right. Rock,
1,
paper,
2, 3.
Oh, my internet's slow.
Ready?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Shoot.
Okay, here we go.
God. All right. 1, 2,
3.
3. Shoot.
I got you.
Are you good? Okay.
Paper.
You go. Okay, good.
Here we go. So hey everybody, sorry for the great jokes at the top of this live cast. I'm Jimmy. I'm one of the co-founders and co-CEOs of Burn. My background, I had worked about 10 plus years in the health and wellness space as a private trainer and group exercise instructor. Also worked about 8 plus years in the creative space as a copywriter, as you heard, greeting card writer, writer's assistant on SNL, and background performer. And thought of the idea in 2013 for Burn and met Johnny a year later. And we can talk about that story and how it all came about. So, but after that was
that was good.
That was the quickest it's ever been. Yes.
that was good. Jimmy's multi-hyphenate, and I think it's important to say just the idea came to him from a client of his, former Boston, Harvard professor, resided in New York City in Manhattan, and was just complaining of the heat during a really hot summer day. So, kind of germinated this, from this idea was germinated in Jimmy's head, and it just, it just kept, manifesting. And so fast forward, we meet. My background is in public health. I work for Mayor Bloomberg's on his obesity task force for the DOH. Have a master's in food studies, nutrition, public health. Co-authored a paper about physical activity and everyday living through nudge theory. Jamie pitched me this idea. We met in a personal training space in Soho, and I was just like, okay, interesting. I gotta let me just do some due diligence on this. Went home that night, researched cool exercise, cold training, and was just blown away by both the dearth of research on it, as well as the burgeoning research that was starting to pick up circa 2007, 2008, 2009. And so the rest is history. We wrote on a napkin. We did that whole thing.
50-50 split. We're co-founders.
Co-founders. And I think just to close my thought is we This is the theme of this. The headline here is like, this is a pop balloon, by the way, is scrappy, entrepreneurial spirit, grit, not giving up.
Yeah.
Take it away, Jimmy. Take it away,
Yeah.
Pearl.
So, I mean, as you all know, like having a good idea is not good enough. So, coming from the side of like athletics, like I was a former D1 athlete, I was a wrestler. So I had this conception, I had this idea that if you're not sweating, you're not working out. And after meeting Johnny and after like really trying to pick apart this idea, because I think the best way you can be an advocate for your brand is to also be its biggest critic. Johnny was like, we have to substantiate this through trials, So we did our first trial in a beer fridge in Brooklyn, in 6 Point Brewery's beer fridge.
I love 6 Point beer.
So now we're big
IPA.
lifetime fans. And then in an ice factory in my hometown in Pennsylvania. And we got a lot of great research about how cold we can go, how the body moves in those temperatures. And then we go, great, we need to have somebody help us run this business who knows how to run a business. So one of my former private clients, he's a former investment banker and commercial real estate guy, and pitched it to him, and he became our first investor and helped us really shape the deck. And then we went out to pitch this idea and had 300 no's, both in person and over email, given our way. And it could have defeated us, but we realized that in every no, we were distilling our concept and distilling the way we talked about it more and more. And then eventually we landed great strategic partners and investors, from celebrity hairstylist Orlando Pita to the gentleman who designed and built the first 15 Soul Cycles, to end up raising $1.5 million and opening our studio May of 2018 in the most competitive place in the world for fitness, which is Flatiron, Chelsea, New York.
Agreed. I mean, I had about 5 gym memberships, and you guys into my top 5, so it's pretty good.
We're honored, yes.
So, I mean, your competitors used to be anywhere from Rumble to Mile High Run Club, to Orange Theory, across the board.
I mean, literally, Peloton's headquarters was 3 blocks away, and Rumble opened up Rumble Training. I mean, I think they said, like they, as in ClassPass, they did a report. There was like close to 300 studios within a 4-block radius.
Wow.
That's it's insane if you think about this. So like, how do you stand out?
And yet you still sold out a lot of your classes, which is very impressive.
Totally. I think it was because we at first served beer. We you could have a can of beer after the workout. I think people were like, is this a bar? And then I think people really saw themselves in our brand, which is super important to be able to build a great first impression, to sort of have something familiar in that first impression. I think that really stood out to most people.
Do you mind if just really quick, I take 30 seconds just to kind of explain what we do inside Burn, or rather what we did? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Can I ask permission
please. And then you can
Pearl?
transition to where you've taken it now, to the at-home experience.
I like your ring, Pearl. We the quick and dirty is so it's about 3,000 square feet, which is super tiny. So for people at home pre-pandemic who went to a brick and mortar boutique studio, think Orange Theory, think Soul Cycle, think F45. That type of private, intimate, boutique fitness class experience. So we exercise people in a giant walk-in beer fridge set to 50 degrees. The idea with cooler temperatures is your performance is the best. It's like putting a superhero cape on your back, because heat doesn't get in the way of movement. When you heat, we actually heat up. A thing called volitional fatigue sets in, and you literally subconsciously start to work out less hard, so you don't cook your organs. But a byproduct is you're burning more calories, you're burning fat, you're boosting a ton of norepinephrine. If you get really cold and go in water, there's a ton of anti-inflammatory effects. But so that's the studio. And then when you walk into Burn, it looks like a rustic, kind of chic, hip Colorado lodge. So we've got reclaimed wood, really great community vibe. And then we also have
the communal infrared sauna.
The communal infrared sauna. But how do we describe? I forget how we did. Mike, it's been so long. We have. how do we describe our bathrooms again? We say
it's gender neutral. We had gender
yeah,
neutral.
yeah, we're gender neutral, but we say, how do we say the male and female? We say
male and female identifying bathrooms.
Identifying. There you
Yeah.
guys, it's been so long.
People
Jesus
love
Christ.
that.
Yeah.
I especially love that poster in the women's bathroom.
Oh, we found every
Bridesmaids.
opportunity for a laugh. Oh my God. Like we had Melissa
Yeah.
McCarthy when she was going to the bathroom and Bridesmaids right next to the female toilet. And then Jeff Daniels and Dumb and Dumber right next to the men's toilet. We're like, cool. There you go.
Yeah.
So good.
But and then so that's that. And God, it's been a while. I've like COVID brain, been here in 8 months in this room. This is my brother-in-law's room, which all the bedroom guys. But so in Burn we have, it's kind of like an innovation lab. We've been developing. We're a startup, but we've had a different sites, different types of classes. We've done yoga in there. We've done HIIT classes. We've done classes with ropes. But our key trophy horse class has been slide boards. And we've had to date about 23,000 reservations, or 23,000 people, over 70,000 reservations. So we've had over 19, 20 months, just people walking through our doors and participating in all these classes. But fast forward, January 2020, what happens, Jimmy?
Johnny has a panic attack in a meeting, full blown, FBP, full blown FBPA, full blown panic attack. Johnny had it. Yeah.
Fauci is a household name in my house. My son, my
you called it in January. You took it seriously.
Oh yeah, I'm like, this
good
is
for
coming.
you.
This is coming. So we were closed by March 15th. So, yep. But that's me being melodramatic, and we were ready. So we pivoted, but yeah, so I have so many fun ice jokes I want to talk about with Pearl in the ice bath. Like, guys, we also did side workshops with Pearl.
I also remember the picture you posted of your son dressed up as Fauci. I just realized how much you love Fauci.
I was Dr. Deborah Birx, by the way.
You were a good Dr. Deborah, Johnny. I'm telling you, no one did it better. But yeah, so in March, Pearl, we were like, oh, we don't have a studio anymore, or at least for right now. And it was tough to have to make 20 phone calls to our team. Again, we're a single location. We had to let everybody go and make sure that they were on unemployment, because that was the most reliable way for them to be able to collect. And Johnny and I FaceTime, we go, so that at-home thing that we're developing, it's got to happen now. And we got to create a whole new business overnight.
Yeah, so that's what we did. At home we were developing actually before COVID and at home play, but the pandemic just put kerosene on the fire, and the play was the slide board, and so we it's crazy what we did. It's been serendipitous that I've been locked in this room because I've just been in front of my computer. Basically doing all the back end ops for building the e-commerce platform. We have a Netflix, basically, we have an app, Burn at Home, for iOS and Android now. We have about 150 videos, but Jimmy will talk to that. But what was interesting, it was almost preemptive. It was almost meta, because it was really easy to execute, because we've been doing this for 2 years. These boards have been, I'm going to curse it. These boards have been beat to shit in the studio, and they've survived perfectly. It's really beautiful pieces of fitness equipment. They're 6 feet. They're 6 feet by 2 feet wide. You slide back and forth. We have a 5 foot and one that adjusts to 6 feet. But we knew what the product was. It's beautiful wood aesthetic, kind of a black deck bumper. It's a up recycled product. And then the actual cueing was easy, because we have the best instructors in NYC in the world. And, the easiest call of our life was calling our videographer who's in Harlem, going, what are you up to? And he's like, yo, let's go. And so that's where Jimmy put on his SNL hat and crushed it. So I don't know if you want to talk about just the production side of things and COVID landscape and filming and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was the toughest thing was when people were asking us what we were doing. They're like, well, where's the cool element? It's no longer like it's a literal thing where you'd walk in and get goosebumps from what we were doing. It was now a figurative thing. We were doing something cool at home with a modality that not a lot of people know about. The same way they didn't really know what working out in cooler temperatures was. So there was still novelty in this pivot. And we knew that we could find a way to make that experience accessible to people who have no other choice but to use the place that they sleep as the place that they now work out. So, we took this slide board class, which the best way to describe a slide board is, imagine like a reformer and a treadmill had a baby. That's what it is. You get the benefits of a Pilates class mixed with the low impact cardio that you wish you had on a treadmill. And we designed 8 categories around that incorporate both stuff with the slide board as well as stuff independent of the slide board. Some of those things are like our yoga class, our recovery class, which is like a stretching and mobility class. And then, as we were talking about with Avi, a breath class to really focusing on mental health and breath meditation. So I drink a lot of coffee, spoke with Johnny to get his blessing that I wasn't going too far off the script. And we cranked out 150 videos, and we realized that, like, okay, we have a whole nother ecosystem that we've built from scratch, and we did it in a way that people would expect of a at-home platform. So it's good that we've had the success, that there is the success of Peloton and Mir and all these other companies that we can kind of look at and say, I really like what they're doing, but how can we do it in our way, and to personalize our experience through successes of our peers.
Super, super, super. I mean, now that you're in this at home direct to consumer space, you have less competitors, but Peloton is really to take a huge chunk of this pie. And are you trying to take a slice of Peloton's pie, or are you trying to reach 23,000 people who are walked in? Them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because one would think like, oh, we have to swim in the same pool, or I sort of liken the metaphor to like an actor's pursuit. Sure, everybody wants to be Brad Pitt, but like it's okay to be it's okay to be a supporting character. It's okay to be Jeff Daniels. Like Jeff Daniels gets a lot of work. You know what I mean? So we wanted to get work, and we knew that people were out of work, and we knew that people wanted to still work out, but they wanted to do it in a fun and challenging way, because usually those two adjectives don't exist in the same sentence. So we wanted to do our own thing at a price point that wasn't obnoxious, because we knew we didn't have a connected experience yet, but we wanted something that was accessible. So to answer your question, we would love to be in good company with them, but we're not pursuing the same things as those companies. We wanted something, again, accessible in price point, and something that felt like anybody, whether you're at the beginning of your journey or someone that's a competitive athlete, can all do under one roof.
And just to add to that, we had a pregame strategy, even pre-pandemic, was to get into at home. And for us, the opportunity was, starting with like, what's the problem? The problem to get into connected at home fitness is price point, and then size of equipment and storage ability of equipment. So where you're seeing connected devices that are $1,600 plus, we all know Peloton's $2,200, $2,500. And by the way, what they've built is incredible. And John Foley, the CEO, is incredible. And we have nothing but the utmost reverence and respect for what they're up to, and wish them continued success. But we have a product that is just as high quality, that is under $300. It's our 5 to 6 foot is $299. Our 5 foot board is $229. You can move it, you can store it, and it's a kick butt workout. And so we are going after, I don't want to put like we can't put it in buckets, like socioeconomic buckets, but really this board is accessible to everyone. And it's something that we think it's now a reset with our COVID, new life, and our fitness closet or our fitness space in that room in our house or in our basement. It's a reset. And we think the burn board should be a part of the experience, part of your weekly workout, whether you're a runner, whether you're a cycler, whether you're a weightlifter, whether you like to power walk. Like like my wife and like the bums. That was a terrible joke. But we do go on walks with our lover. But anyways, you get the point.
Agreed. Yeah, totally. No, it's definitely a really, really good price point. That is the price where you can pretty much be like, this is a great Christmas gift or holiday gift. 2,000 is a little price gouging. So that's totally affordable. So you do have a subscription for service. It is, you pay per month after you get the board.
Yeah, we realized that like times are still tough for people. So we've actually given our subscription away for free until January of next year.
Wow.
And then once the new year comes, we will charge $9.99 a month or $79.99 for the year. Again, it's the same philosophy we had with the brick and mortar. We wanted people to experience this. We knew that we could have charged as much as the best brands in that space, but it was a reason why we went on ClassPass. It's the reason why our price point wasn't obnoxious, because we wanted people to see that they should warm up to cooler temperatures. It's the same philosophy with this at home. We want people to move laterally. Every plane of motion that most people train in is linear, and it's causing a lot of imbalances and issues with people's bodies. And it's called upper cross syndrome, this sort of like slouching posture that we've adopted from staying at home and also from our tech devices. This improves it, and not to throw calories out there, but you can burn 500 calories in 30 minutes sliding on this board and have a hell of a good time doing it. I know you can attest. You're a very fit person, and you would always be at the very front of my class, and it was very intimidating for me. But I would see you, grimace and go through these workouts, and you can as an athlete, you can attest that it's definitely a challenging but super accessible workout.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like, being a OCR obstacle course racer, I was doing a lot of up and down movements and a lot of heavy lifting, and I needed that balance of stretching out the muscles and going laterally, and they always encourage you to do Pilates, and that was a little too boring for me at times, and I didn't like the crowd there.
I would love to see you in a Pilates class. Oh my gosh, just to have a sort of behind a camera and watch you not enjoy it.
Yeah, you don't look at my face. Well, speaking of January 2021, what do you see? What do you see happening for Burn for the rest of 2021? Do you guys see yourself opening up your physical location back up at all? Can you tell us a little bit, a little insight on that?
So I think, I'll talk about just kind of the future, Jimmy, and then if you just want to talk about then
because the future is such a good topic, Johnny. I think we have to rock, paper, scissors this, because I really want to go first.
I think we're fair. You won first.
Can we do rock, paper, scissors really quick?
We'll rain check that. Okay, so this is what we're up to.
Oh,
so,
you're not gonna
I'm excited. So we are right. This is a branding conversation. Is we had to thread the brick and mortar cool literal science with what we are. So we're purveyors of cool experiences. So we're pivoting to a D2C company. The goal is to retain the current studio. It's going to transform into kind of an experiential retail hub. But we understand the tech play is huge. So we are currently developing a wearable that's going to go on your ankle to track your slide progress and your slide speed. It should be ready sometime next year. And I'll tee you up with what you can do with it. But the low-hanging quantifiable fruit, right? With just think of the stuff of your distance and your speed and your calories. We're really excited about that. And then we have some other products in the portfolio pipeline, one of which is a supplement that we're excited about and developing. And then we have other stuff kind of deep in innovation land, but just we're super laser focused on this, as well as, and this is interesting, is going international. So we're talking, we're launching on Amazon this quarter, and then going global with the boards into Amazon EU, UK, into Japan, into Australia. And we're setting up a really great, robust pipeline there.
I mean, Pearl, we recognize, I think, that as the people that are watching this, how do you develop like an omni-channel to your customer? How do you welcome yourself into every hour of their day? And we knew that fitness was just 1 hour of that, or if that. So what we're thinking about these cool experiences at home for right now, we want to, again, as we always say, the job of an innovator is to improve the systems of their predecessors. So we want to look at what's happening and, make for a better world by making better things. So the first stop is our slide board and really creating an incredible tech ecosystem around it. Then to play with some holistic things with, I'll even say it's around sleep potentially and other really fun stuff. And then, the studio conversation will happen when New York is ready to be back, and we have to reassess then. And we have interest from people domestically and internationally to license our concept, and we are excited to continue those conversations. But we got to be where the people are at right now, and it's at home. That's what we have. That's where our reach is, and that's where we have put all of our energy and focus for right now, as we're raising money for this, for this next round for us.
Wow. Okay. That is so exciting. I love data and like seeing improvements and everything. So that wearable would be pretty sick. So to keep.
I cannot wait for your long emails when you're like, "Hey, look, I don't like the color of this. It's a little too tight on my ankle." I just kidding. Make this better.
No,
please.
I hope it's going to be like a heavy wearable, so it's going to make me work harder.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Exactly.
Wait, that's smart. Well, quick dumb question. We go until what time? Until 1:30?
This is till 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a lot of time to fill. No.
Get out the microphone. Let's talk about the Queen's Gambit. Which is so good. But one thing I wanted to stress with the Scrappy play is we're still very much a startup. So, we don't have millions of dollars to throw into Instagram and into Pinterest and whatnot. So we have been very successful with brand partnerships and affiliate marketing. We were just featured in Men's Health. We just did a thing with Trivia Genius. And there's going to be a litany of, publications and magazines and online, media companies who we've sent the boards to, and and we worked out just, deals with to really help, guilty of association being, connected with amazing brands that's going to help Burn grow. And Jimmy mentioned it. So, we're a seed extension round. We initially raised $1.5 million for the studio. We're in the middle of about a $3 million raise. We've closed about a third of it right now. And it's welcome to startup life, and it's just, it's you take an every day, as present as you possibly can. So.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of you guys. You guys have taken this to the next level. We have a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to take a gander.
Cool. It's Sai going to ask any questions from us? I love Sai.
How do I get? What's the best internet provider?
I wish I had a poster with my face next to you two guys. That would be great.
There's still time, Pearl. There's still time.
So are you using any new media or emerging technologies to reach consumers? So most of our audience is our brand marketers and they're in the ad tech space. So they're wondering, are you using other than Instagram and earned media? Is there anything else that you're utilizing to reach consumers?
Yeah. There's a so we're about maybe 2 months into working with this company called Octane AI, and they focus on getting subscribers for through Messenger, and a large part of our boomer and the sort of stay-at-home moms and dads are more on Facebook, our sort of target demo to them, and so that was something that was completely new to us. But oh my gosh, we've seen a lot of great progress made with interaction and engagement with that. So yeah, Octane AI, and it's not just for fitness, it's really for a lot of different brands. We're of a higher price point, so it's a little bit more of a challenge, higher as in compared to someone that's selling makeup for $14.99, right? But we've been seeing some great success and really some traction in different ways that we didn't see before through our other traditional digital media spends.
Very cool. Okay, Octane.ai. Look into them.
Yeah.
What did you learn from the pandemic pivot that will carry over to your post-pandemic life?
Do you want me to go?
I'll go. I love a bowl of Lucky Charms at the end of the hard day. Like, that is my crack, is Lucky Charms. It's like, no,
Johnny, tell them when your Netflix comedy special is coming out. I think it's very important for them to know.
It's coming out 2021.
Good.
No, I think if you were to zoom out 5 years, or you were to zoom out and look at 5 years, 10 years, I think the fact that we launched brick and mortar is going to be actually advantageous for us because of just instant Q&A marketing. It's like a monkey survey every day with people, and connecting with people. We're a real life, living, breathing entity versus just a D2C product that just launches. And so that's I'm going to miss it. It was the hardest part of my life, and we're probably going to once we reopen, it's going to be a lot different, and we'll learn from that.
Yeah, I think, I'm a big fan of this guy named Scott Bedbury, who wrote this book, Brand New World. And it's about putting people and principles over profits. So we had to really think about what we wanted to stand for. And we knew that our whole philosophy was to aspire to never expire. And what that means is just basically just resilience, pursuing discomfort and coming out on the other side better for it. And so the one thing that at least I learned from this, and I'm sure Johnny can attest to it too, is don't get attached to a certain identity. Burn was never going to be just a cool temperature studio concept. It was supposed to be, again, one of the many innovative things that we were going to do with the company. It started as that, right? So I think it's important if you're working for a brand or creating your own is to explore those other verticals within the main thing. So that way, if something happens, you're on your toes, not your heels.
I like that. I mean, you should be writing an article on that. That's very quotable, very tweetable, actually. So you briefly mentioned some of the brand partnerships that you've had. You previously did something with 6 Point. I've seen some of the brands that you featured in your store. What are the brands that you're working with now, that you're partnering up with now?
Rhone has been fabulous. Rhone, Carbon 38. Rhone is men's activewear. Carbon 38 is female activewear. Those are the first two that come to mind. They fitted our entire all of our instructors for the videos.
There's a gentleman named Ray, who is a Black-owned activewear owner for U Hill Life. It's important for us to also get have representation with diverse voices within our brand, and he's one of them. And so he's helped fit a lot of our female instructors, which is great. So shout out to him. All
wine from the Loire Valley of France. Our neighbor Eddie is a French wine store, and he's given us wine and supported us. And that's going to be part of my terrible Netflix joke, Jimmy. I can't wait. We're right in Flatiron, Chelsea. So there's we've done stuff with JCPenney's. We've done stuff with Under Armour, has been tremendous with us. We've done a lot of collaborations. We've shot commercials with them. Just other top of mind, Jimmy, collabs. Yeah, I mean, right. As it pertains to Burn at Home, there's a gentleman named Micah that and also our publicist, Brittany Blake, who's watching this. Yep. Brittany, we love you. We hope that we cannot wait for your notes after this about how great we did. But we worked with this guy named Micah, who worked for Huckberry, who's sort of helping to lead alongside our publicist, Brittany, this affiliate program. And he's done an incredible job of utilizing his resources to get us these spots by sending boards to editors and to have really nice pieces. That's something we didn't really explore in the studio, because how do you sell cold? We're going to send someone an ice cube tray and say, put it in your clothing and work out. No, you got to come to our studio. So that's been a huge advantage. And so giving a little bit to getting a lot more is super important. And the cost of the publicity far outweighs the cost of shipping a board to somebody. So that's been very helpful.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And Under Armour makes a lot of sense for you guys to partner with. Are there any brands that that you would on your wish list that you want to partner with, that you look up to?
Yes. Lavazza and Nespresso have fueled me. So no, our teeth are so stained because we drink so much coffee. But I mean, yeah, joking aside, yeah,
That's
the
right.
Listerine. Oh my God, the
Listerine would be a partner.
Listerine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it makes it. There's just so many great synergies. Alcohol, there's just we're about active. We're active, living, breathing lifestyle brand, and so anything that is part of that, I think repertoire of products, I think synergizes with us. We're pro economy, we're capitalists. From Kellogg to Nestle, we love these companies, we love these brands, and we are open to everything under the sun. I think it comes down to core values and mission statements from the leadership of these companies and what they stand for.
Cool themed preference, stuff that we can kind of flip and apply. Temperature or the thought of something being cool is a preference. So any company that applies to, I want to have a conversation with them.
Totally.
Okay.
And I'm talking to you, Yeti. Anyway.
Ooh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the alignment there. Next up, when everything is back to normal in quotation marks, how will your industry have changed permanently?
So I believe that if you are an operator of a brick and mortar studio and you're not thinking about ways to do something virtual, it was nice knowing you. I think that the future of brick and mortar is now click and mortar. And I think that you have to understand that you have to play with both avenues in order to stay around. There'll be brands that can't do it, and it's unfortunate. And we feel for those brands. But the idea of direct to consumer alongside experiential is super important. And some states will have a little bit more flexibility to have those experiences because of weather, because of other, different types of governance. But it's super important for specifically fitness companies to find a product or a unique thing within what they already have and to offer another vertical to give more optionality.
That was great, Jimmy. I think to add to that is, this pandemic has fast forwarded us 30, 40 years into the future. We're already, cyborgic with our phones. We're offloading data and intel into these things. But I think we're, as a consequence of this, is pertains to fitness, is we're going to realize how much more time we save exercising at home and how much more efficient it is. And I think the dynasties, the major players, the major brick and mortars, the major brands they're gonna have enough cash in the bank to stay afloat. There's gonna be a tremendous amount of loss of brick and mortar businesses, which is really sad. But it's gonna completely change the fitness and experiential I think brick and mortar landscape. From dining to fitness, we are a I'll just stop there. It's quite sad. But
we are
yeah. Well, I mean, we know we're a service economy, right? So we're not a manufacturing economy. So and that's what killed New York City is, well, a lot of people lost jobs because of the services, because of the restaurants, because of Broadway shut down. But it's going to be a slow recovery. Also, once the pandemic, once there's a vaccine, there's still going to be masks. It's going to be, I think, 5 to 10 year minimum recovery period.
Yeah. The Super Bowl is still fun at home. That's all I gotta say. You can there's the idea of going to a game live or being able to enjoy in the comfort of your own home. I think the same could be applied for fitness too. It may not, you may not be able to have fun with the tailgates at home, but you still can see the game. So that's sort of my thought.
Totally agree. So working from home and distancing have altered consumer media and digital habits in many ways. What are you seeing when it comes to those types of behavioral changes? How are they adapting?
Can you ask that question again? I'm trying to see.
Yeah, it's a long one.
I'm trying to apply it to us. Yeah, of consumer media habits. Yeah.
So consumer media habits, people are, they're scrolling on Instagram, they're going through TikTok. they're watching TV and on their phone at the same time. That's a lot of the typical habits that consumers are having. I mean, they're shopping while they're watching TV. There's a lot of social listening.
I have an idea in terms of a strategy of how to get their attention. So I think incongruous, like messaging that doesn't have to do with the thing that you do is really interesting, and doing that in like a few seconds or less. I see so many traditional fitness ads out there that are so boring. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, you guys are doing this thing. When we have a concept for a commercial that has like, that feels like a SNL sketch, but not as funny. Or for some people might think like an SNL sketch. But I think it's like fine, like free associate when you're in these like, these meetings to create, campaigns and to not always be on the nose. I mean, I have a background in improv. They always say go A to C. So like if someone yelled out a suggestion for like candy, you don't do a scene about candy. It's like candy reminds me of cavities. Cavities remind me of a dentist. It may be a scene about a dentist or about someone going to med school, right? Like don't be so obvious with your choices on how to get people's attention. I think like be deliberate and less is more, but know that being on the nose is the I think not the smartest choice in terms of messaging.
I think that was good. How many cavities?
Thank you, Johnny. You're very kind.
How many cavities do you? I haven't seen a dentist. Speaking of dentists, since like last year, because I just sorry if you're a dentist, and it's safe to go to the dentist. I haven't. They're just so stained right now. Anyway, I think we saw. I was going to say, just talking about like your MailChimp campaign, we have industry standard click open rates, but it's shifted to texting. Warby Parker, I think, is a great example of, just a great platform that has a great interface with texting. We're a small shop, so it's texting is, and we got into texting, and it is, when you text New Yorkers, man, and they don't want to be texting, boy, the responses that you get with, and your 20, 23, 24, 25-year-old studio coordinators that are on the other side of it also receiving it, who can also take it because they're resilient. It's funny. But
it was terrible.
So I also think like with the times, with what's going on with politics and the election, I think we saw a huge precipitous drop off during obviously preemptive of the election week. And just everyone was on Steve Kornacki and his khaki pants, and Gap just went through the roof, right? With everyone wants to buy. They literally saw an uptick of khaki sales. So it's shifting. It is, and we're scrappy startup, and we're throwing Instagram ads and Facebook ads, but it's who knows where it's going to be in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year or so.
I want to give a shout out to Diet Coke, by the way. I'm not sponsored by them, and I don't drink Diet Coke, but their recent campaign about drink what your mama gave you, I think, is the perfect way to flip the narrative about something, because the opening of that commercial, kids drinking a Diet Coke, it's like, what are you, my mom? And then it becomes this huge female empowerment pro-mom anthem, and I think like that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. So like, I think thinking like that is super important with like trying to get your message across. If you haven't seen the ad, please see it. It's unbelievable. My favorite ad this year.
Yeah, you guys should do some sort of twist on it.
We got some fun stuff, Pearl, and that we may be casting someone that is like you. So be ready for it.
I'll be back for the holidays, so hopefully you guys are filming something around then.
Okay.
Well, we're over time. It's been so fun chatting with you guys. I mean, yeah. I wish I wasn't talking to you guys and I can take more notes.
Yep.
But like click and mortar, that stuck with me. I'm really proud of you guys for pivoting the way you guys have. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on everything you guys do, especially that wearable that will be launching and the brands that you'll be partnering with. Hopefully after this, they're calling and they're going to be cool things like you guys are asking for. So exciting brand to keep an eye on. And
buy a board.
Oh, I mean, is there a brand innovators discount or something?
Oh yeah, yeah. Johnny's creating it as we speak right now. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want the
absolutely.
code? What do you want the code to be? We'll give you 15% off. What should we do? You want it to be?
Let's do
What
brand 15. Brand 15.
brand 15?
That's
Should we do
it.
brand
Easy
15?
enough.
Let's do it.
Easy
I'll set it
enough.
up right after we talk. Brand 15,
Yeah.
15% off. I won't ever
Love
turn it
it.
off.
Look at that, Pearl. You
Easy,
make change
easy
happen.
peasy. Do
You
I
make
get a
change
cut?
You get a cut.
Hello.
All
like-
proceeds go to Pearl getting a really fancy ice bath for wherever she's at in the
Yeah,
country
exactly.
at the time.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we'll bring you guys back on in 2021 to talk about the success that you guys have and the new campaigns.
We can't wait.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure, surprisingly moderating alongside you.
Great.
But you're great.
Sorry, we love you, Sai. Sorry, Sai. We'll connect at another point in our lives, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Pearl, you were great. I appreciate
Awesome job. Awesome job.
Lucky to step in. All right. Thanks so much to Jimmy and Johnny from Burn for joining us today. And we'll have Sai come back in next time, maybe in 2021 to talk with these two funny characters. So next up on stage, we have Rachel Mervis from Nestle and Kendra Manzo from The Trade Desk. Rachel Mervis is the global programmatic lead at Nestle. Rachel has 7 years of media experience where she worked across multiple disciplines within programmatic. Prior to Nestle, Rachel worked at Merkle, where she managed programmatic media and strategy across both Nespresso and Nestle Waters for the US market. This session will be moderated by Kendra Manzo, Director of Client Development at The Trade Desk. Welcome to the stage, Rachel and Kendra.
Hello.
Hi.
You guys look ready to go. Sorry about the delay there.
Oh, it's totally fine. First of all, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna live up to the hilarity of those guys. So
Click and murder.
Guys. Yeah, I don't got jargon for you like click and murder. I got a lot of jargon, but nothing that fun. Nothing that
You mean
fun.
you didn't work on
tweetable.
SNL in a previous life?
Man, I don't think I'm going to be invited to SNL anytime soon. I've been away from New York for way too long. It kills the humor. You're just not funny anymore when you move from New York. It turns out you're just not. Kendra's still
You're
in New
happier,
York now.
I'm here to ground
I
us
love
with
New
so
York.
much New York humor. I'm sure.
I love
Well, I'm
New York.
loving
my
the good
bedroom.
energy from you too. I'll let you guys take the stage. I'll be back while you guys are wrapping towards the end.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks, Pearl. Hey, Rachel.
Hello. Hello.
It's us.
Hey, everyone. Taking over
so-
from the men.
Sorry.
I said we're taking over from the men.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's female power. Let's go. So awesome. I'm so excited to talk to you, especially of all people, because we go way back to a very different world in 2017. It's pre you moving to Switzerland. It's right before you took on this tiny role of overseeing all of global programmatic for Nestle, this like tiny company that a few people have heard of. So I just want to hear a little bit about your transition from your previous roles, agency side, tech side, and how you took that into your role at Nestle. And then what was your vision when you set out in 2017 and tell us.
Yeah, thanks, Kendra. And so you've definitely seen through this entire experience. So, I started this role in New York with just a Google Chromebook as I was awaiting both my visa to Switzerland and my Nestle computer, which for reasons of probably the ocean was delayed. So it was a good starting point. I had my it was really a Chromebook commercial, I would say. So from that Chromebook, I defined the framework for success. And because no one knew me yet, I was able to have really a designated few weeks to build the programmatic framework that became the skeleton for the operations that we've built over the past 3 years. So in Nestle eyes, I'm pretty new. Most people at Nestle work for Nestle for 20, 30, 40 years. It's truly a Fortune 100 company like that. But in these 3 years, we've done a lot. And so the vision was to build each component needed for the success and then weave them all together through the lens of audience and high operational standards.
Awesome. I love it. So we've got this like high level vision. We have a framework. We're waiting for our computer and our visas.
Yep. You know, the visa was delayed too by 6 months. They have quotas in Switzerland. You know, they can only accept so many Americans at once. True fact. True fact.
We're all trying to get there for the skiing and the chocolate. So
exactly.
So you had this framework established. So what came next after that? I assume you got your visas. You seem,
so
you seem
the visa eventually came, the computer came, and then a lot of work came with both
awesome.
of those. So after we had the framework, what we did is we took a look at the current state of operations, both my manager Daria and I. And what we did first is we conducted a financial assessment. So we really took a look at where were the opportunities within the organization across programmatic. What were the gaps and how could we fill those gaps? So we conducted a lot of surveys. We really dove into these financial operations and outlined where some efficiencies lay and also where effectiveness lay. So once we outlined those opportunities where we thought that the biggest differences could be made, we then landed on the initial concept for our answer to in-housing, which was the Digital Media Center of Competencies. And from there, the initial concept had 16 opportunities.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, sorry. So what we did with that is we then took a very crucial next step, and it's really great that honestly we had the sanctity of mind to do it. So we took these opportunities to all of our different zones. So much like many global teams, we have our global teams, we have our regional teams, and we have our local teams. And we have the sanctity of mind to take these 16 opportunities, which is way too many opportunities to address in the first, way too many. We were not going to.
And then roll it out casually across the global organization.
I would
totally decentralized. Yeah, of course.
There would need to be at least 3 of me and Daria each to have done that. So, you know, we had this sanctity of mind. We brought it to the zones and we brought it to all of our largest media markets. And we got their perspectives and we said, what do you think of these opportunities? What do you think are the largest opportunities for the organization? And which ones would be a game changer for you? So we listened to their perspectives. We really, truly listened to their perspectives. And from there, we adjusted the concept. We adjusted the governance, and we took those 16 opportunities and pared it down to 6 opportunities. And that's where we started. Yeah.
From 16 to 6. Thank you.
I'm doing my math right. I think that's about a 70% decrease. But that meant that we could be a lot more focused and really take them and do them end to end. And so where we started was with 6 competencies we thought were the most important. So audience utilization and audience optimization was one.
Okay.
Another was retail media, which, you know, has made a surge this year. You might have heard through a little thing called COVID.
Yes.
I don't know if you've been reading the newspapers recently.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I don't know why I'm working from my bedroom.
So then we also addressed audience first advertising through dynamic creative optimization. We addressed transparency and accountability, so really digital media responsibility. We launched one on what we call supply and trading, but is effectively partnering throughout the programmatic supply chain, as well as ad operations, and those comprise the 6 that we started with. So from there, what we did is we had all of those markets that we talked to, which was 80% of our NNS. We had them determine which their priorities were. So out of these 6, they each committed to which of these were their priorities. And the majority of them committed to 3 or 4. And then all of the individuals that committed within those markets ultimately formed a working group for those 6 different competencies. From there, before launch, we had to recruit the people to fill these competencies. And the good thing here is this was pre-COVID. So this was back in 2019, right? And the good thing is
A
that
simpler time.
a different world. Remember when we could see each other?
I know.
So the beauty here was that this was sort of designed to be virtual to start with. So these individuals that we were hiring to guide each of these competencies and to basically guide the working groups who were built from those local teams and the different global teams per one were selected from anywhere in the world, just based on where the expertise were. And we partnered with our agencies to find these experts to guide these competencies. And the way of working was already virtual. And so this, I think, really, it helped us to already have a starting place when we were, brought this whole new world in 2020.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, it's super interesting. I remember when we were first introduced to each of your I guess COCs, the Center of Competencies, and they were coming from different agencies, and they had such diverse backgrounds, and they came from different markets, and so they had that sort of global view, which was really great to see. But something that I wanted to touch back upon was how much you engaged with the local teams. And hearing about a very decentralized company like Nestle, the global team engaging with local markets. Is that something that's common at Nestle? Because I don't hear about that often across other global orgs.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it wasn't time. At the time,
Okay.
there was not that way of working, and we built it through the Digital Media Center of Competencies. And of course, the global and local teams talked and shared best in class practices, did different share outs of various pilots, but there wasn't this way of working where simultaneously there was the design of the strategy and the operations hand in hand with global and local teams. There wasn't the co-partnership in taking decisions together, ultimately connected by an expert who's able to guide towards the various different nuances, but be infused by the different business experience that our markets have, and that all of our individuals across markets are true leaders in. And so this ultimately turned into an interconnected infinity loop, even more than we ever anticipated. And it's being used as best in class ways of working across Nestle, even to emulate for different initiatives. So different various zone business leads say, this is the way that all the global teams should interact with the local markets, having these working groups where the decisions are made together, but they're also made in an incredibly agile and fast way so that we can move quickly and move the company forward.
And get stuff done. It's not easy to do.
No. And, that's important.
Yeah, there's,
at least to us New Yorkers,
Yeah. We're like, how can we be as efficient as possible and get things done? Like, we have a strategy, we have a vision, great. But then, what does that look like? And so, speaking of what does that look like, can you just give us an example? Because I feel like the Center of Competencies is awesome. We went from 16 to 6. Good on you. Focus. And it was all driven by local market contribution with global guidance, which I just love this ground up strategy that you were able to implement in a very short amount of time, especially in Nestle years. I would just love if you could give us a practical example of how that came to life.
Yeah, so I think one of the easiest ones and one of the most fun ones to give the example through is dynamic creative optimization. And just to take a step back for one moment, for anyone who doesn't know what dynamic creative optimization is, what this is an automated technology that ultimately enables audience first advertising, because it effectively builds it uses a decision tree to say if the consumer is interested, if the consumer is a mom, then they receive this creative for our infant nutrition brand. If the consumer is a dad, they receive this creative that's relevant to dads. If it's hot outside, then the scene is in the backyard. If it's cold outside, then the scene is inside. So it uses these different triggers to enable audience first advertising. So just to take a step back there in case anyone doesn't know what it is. So that was one of our competencies. We saw this as a way to transform and actually operationalize our audience first advertising vision, because one of our digital media ambitions is to bring audience first advertising to life. So the first thing here was to have the working group. And then the working group comprised of over 15 of our largest markets, ultimately defined with the expert what was the North Star. And the North Star was to provide more relevant consumer experiences in our advertising. So we defined this North Star and everything came off of it. So they built out our standard operating procedures from planning to execution to measurement. They built out the way that measurement would take place in value realization, actually measuring the financial efficiencies of the production components and actually measuring the improved effectiveness based on better media performance. And in addition, they of course also worked together to conduct both an RFI and an RFP, a multi-pronged approach to determine who would be the right technology enabler to bring this, who could best bring to life the use cases where the aim was to bring audience first advertising to life. And the secondary aim was also to enable a way to automate our creative in more efficient means. Currently, the standard way of operating is that this is built out manually by individuals. So each and every ad size, each and every video length is built out manually. And the technology can also automate this, and it can also really help with global to local operations in the localization of a what we call a master asset, to adjust it for Italy or to adjust it for France based on language, based on other cultural nuances. So they put this whole package together. They partnered on all the decisions and ultimately partnered as well on the technology selection for the company.
I love it. So this is DCO, which is fantastic, such a crucial part, and it's one of your 6. Did you end up rolling out this same framework across other vendors, other tech providers? How did you think about it for your overall ecosystem of partners?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we rolled out this, the way that we step changed our operations to really connect the global and local teams, we rolled out for every RFP we've conducted in the past 3 years, but more so 2 years. So we rolled this out across DSP, across SSP, across ad verification, across DCO as mentioned, and across also a customized reporting tool that we built. And here we built a multi-pronged RFP approach. This is what we've learned in the past couple of years works best. So first here we outline what is the business challenge, because technology should not be used just for the sake of technology. It shouldn't be used just because it's shiny and cool, although I love the shiny and cool technology. Huge fan. That's not a business use case. So first we outlined the business challenge, and we also outlined the use we're trying to do. So for example, with the DCO, we were trying to bring audience first advertising to life. That was the biggest ambition. Secondarily, another very impactful one, like I mentioned, is the bringing of content automation to life for global to localization and also to adjust assets. And another sub one, helping to bring personalized recipe-driven advertising to life, for example, for our food brands. So there were several different use cases that we put forth, and for each RFP there is. So then from there, we built out the categorization of questions. So what are we going to focus on? And for example, in our DCO one, we focused on what platforms they could activate across. We focused on what use cases they could bring to life. We focused on how they pull in audiences. There were different categorization, and we aligned both the business challenges, the use cases, and the categorization with the working group and with the local decision makers who would ultimately be using this technology. Then we outlined who are the best solutions to this, and we start out with a lot of solutions, and throughout the multi-pronged we move to fewer and fewer through the different stages of the RFP. So we, from there, round out the questions and select the vendors for the RFP. And this is all in partnership with the individuals who have declared that this is a priority for them. So very frequently, this is on their annual plans within their individual operational master plans, within their market operational master plans. Our local teams set aside time approved by their managers as this is such a critical initiative, and it's seen as a critical initiative to pair this all together through the org.
I love it. And so something I really wanted to highlight there, what you brought up. So there's like the standard RFI process of evaluating a technology, but there's something unique that Nestle did that's not as common, which is the use cases. So how does a technology that I'm evaluating work for Nestle specific problems? So whether that be trying to understand attribution of offline sales to online media, or trying to empower a holistic marketing strategy across multiple categories of portfolios. So I love that you not only took the evaluation of the shiny object, right, the technology itself, but then how do we apply that to Nestle specifically so that the local teams feel more involved instead of it being the sort of lofty global strategy. These local teams are involved in the process. They understand how the technology can work for them and reach their priorities. So I commend you for that. It's really not an easy thing to do, and you did it. So at this point, like, you've conducted a crazy amount of RFPs. You've sat through hours of presentations. I wish that so many of these people could have gone to Switzerland to present in person, but we're computers. But at this point, you must have learned a lot. I'd love to know what was like your biggest step change adjustment that you made to make sure that people were involved at the local level in this decision-making process.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we've made a bunch of step changes. So there's been a lot of learnings throughout these many RFPs, as you mentioned, and I'm devoted to the cause of never running an RFP again and now operationalizing the use cases. But one of the step changes we made, and this is a very, very simple one, is we started producing a document that explained how our company is set up, what are the business needs, and whatever is relevant for that specific business challenge. What we found through some of the initial ones we did is there just wasn't this understanding from the tech providers, and fairly so. So the pitch often was quite different. So the pitches would be different from different providers, and they were really difficult to compare. And so by just preparing a simple 2-pager about what you're really trying to accomplish, preparing a proper briefing on top of the actual RFP and the actual questions, and really explaining the company's setup and who are taking the decisions and why is the decision being taken, it is a game changer. So it's totally an extra time commitment, and I know we're all swamped, but it's really worth it for the end results.
Yeah, because otherwise you have a bunch of salespeople trying to sell you on their thing, right? As opposed to, why is this going to help Nestle?
Yeah, and you know, it's only fair to them, and it's good for your time as the brand, and it's good for the tech partners' time, and it makes so much better results end to end.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's so many of these pitches where there's like mind reading assumed. It's like, well, you didn't show me what I wanted to see, even though I didn't tell you what I wanted to see.
Sure, I'm sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's great. I love the responsibility that you took for giving the vendors what they needed to present and set them up for success. You don't want to sit through a bunch of failures. You want to have your choice of, like, make the choice hard. Like that's pretty cool. So whatever, make it what?
Comparable between providers.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So let's think about like I love how much you've been giving us sort of insight into how the sausage is made, which isn't very common. Like normally a setup like this, we would just keep everything really high level and you wouldn't get into the actual execution. But I think the people on the line, I'm assuming, this is really helpful because you're giving strategy advice. What other advice would you give to a large global decentralized company looking to maybe roll out something similar and gain a closer relationship with their tech providers and own those contracts themselves?
Yeah, so beyond the use cases, which I'll go into a bit later, but more tactically, very simple things, very simple tips that I would recommend is, first of all, the way that you score the RFP is incredibly important. So across our stream, we really believe in being transparent with the providers, and we want them to understand how they're being scored. So we share the scorecard in full transparency with each of the tech providers in the RFP. This is something that we've started to do. We don't share it too early in the presentation and frame it all around the scorecard, but we share it before so it's fully transparent and there's no surprises after the fact. And then after the fact, once the RFP is closed, we walk through with each provider exactly how they were scored and how they compared to their peers. How they compared to their peers. We have to be very careful with NDA information. We don't give anything away, but we at least talk to them about their product and why it wouldn't work for our company for whatever reason. So some other simple learnings on the scorecard is automate it. Automate the scorecard. So this is the best advice I can give you. So it really helps on the back end of aggregating the scores across different individuals and knowing how each entity scores. It's also great for instant gratification. And it really pulls the process together to be a lot more speedy. The other thing I'd say about the scorecard is make it concise. So we've learned this over the different RFPs too. The more concise you make it, the better, because the people who are scoring take it a lot more seriously the fewer questions that there are. So ask the most important questions and ask questions that you can't misconstrue in different ways. They're factual based questions based on how you briefed and what the business challenges are. So we found that the more concise scorecards actually also helps to lessen the delta across the scoring, and it makes a huge impact.
Yeah, and then you also have you have the buy-in from the teams because you've been engaging them since the very beginning. So by the time they're filling out the scorecards, they know about this process. They're not just like given a scorecard out of nowhere. Right. So speaking again of local, just because I love this topic, because especially with a global team like taking the local activation so seriously, how do you account for local nuances in a global RFI/RFP? Like that's not easy to do. How'd you do it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So first of all, it starts at the top. We make sure that we're aligned on the business objective. We make sure that we're aligned on what is the purpose of this technology and how will it be used? What is the need for the RFP? And how will we be scoring? What matters? From there, everything trickles down from that. So one of the simple step changes we've made is to allow people to wear different hats, and it can be incredibly simple. So for example, in our DSP RFP, we asked the 10 different markets who were engaged in this pitch, who was the best fit DSP for the organization, who was the best fit for advanced markets, and who was the best fit, or like score how they're a fit for advanced markets, score how they're a fit for emerging markets, and score how they're a best fit for the organization, as well as score how they're a best fit for you. And so that way, by asking a question to them saying, are they a fit for your market? Are they a fit for advanced markets? Are they a fit for emerging markets? This allows them to wear different hats. We've learned over the different RFPs that even if you ask people to wear different hats, it's unfair to them unless you ask the right questions that allows them to wear different hats, because their belief for their market versus their belief for advanced markets or emerging markets could be totally different answers. It's a crazy simple step change.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you, I'm just going to move on a little bit here, just as we're cognizant of time, but what would you say is your biggest differentiator in the whole RFP process? So we've talked through a lot of things that are unique to Nestle versus more standard, but what would you say, Rachel, throughout this process, we're 2 years into these evaluations, number one differentiator?
So the number one differentiator, I think, are the use cases.
Got
Think
it.
about what are the business challenges you want this technology to fill. So for the DSP RFP, it was enabling the convergence of media planning, buying, and measurement. That was one of the use cases. The second use case was the connection to brand and business results. And these use cases really brought to life actual capabilities of the technology. It makes the providers think about how can their technology solve a business problem, and this allows you as an advertiser to figure out, is it the right fit for your company? Because I'm a strong believer that there's different fits for different companies. It's not the same solution for everyone.
Awesome. And so what would you say, based on that being the number one differentiator, what's the best example of that working? In maybe you've already made the selection post use cases. What's the best example of it working?
So I'd say the best example here is it was how we decided to change ad verification providers. So again, here we had at least 10 markets engaged in this decision. And because all of our largest markets were engaged throughout every component of the process, when we took the decision to change the entire technology over, quite quickly, I might add, and during COVID time, to the whole company in one fell swoop, when the decision had to be made when the decision had to be approved across all zones and markets due to the way of how we fund this technology, the alignment resulted in such simplified business approvals that other initiatives just didn't have the same immediate alignment, because we did it the right way for the whole org, because we could genuinely say, and the people on the calls could say, this is the right move. The decision makers could say, this is the right move. It was there, and we were able to seamlessly shift over.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's not easy as a global organization with separate P&Ls across different markets and opcos to say, hey, you should do this, because those individual markets are going to say, well, I'm autonomous and I'm not doing that. But because you engage them from the beginning, that process and the rollout of a new partner, it truly was global as opposed to globally recommended, right? So it's very cool to see the recommendations turn into actual execution and adoption. So kudos to you for getting that buy-in and understanding how to navigate just a tiny little company called Nestle. So shifting gears a bit, this was so helpful. I appreciate how transparent you're being and how much you're sharing with the wider group, because I firmly believe, as do so many of my colleagues, that this rising tide raises all ships. Right. So you sharing this with us is crazy helpful, and we really appreciate it. So it's an example of this working, right? I love seeing it. So I guess I want to learn more about how did you adjust in the middle of doing multiple evaluations across multiple vendors globally. Something happened in late March that required us to adjust a bit. So how did you adjust and also stay on the same timelines? And were you able to stay on those same timelines given the impact of COVID, both on our business and then also on the way that we do work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we ended up conducting multiple RFPs remotely, but the one that we conducted fully remotely was the DSP RFP. So luckily, because of how we set up the DCOC, we already had some experience engaging with markets while working remote and working virtually across every time zone in the world. However, we had to, previously we had conducted RFPs and we paired them on top of big meetings. So we would have biannual meetings, and we would put the RFP next to that so people would be in person. Here we had to fully shift it to running remote. So instead of conducting it over 2 days, we conducted it over 2 weeks, for example, with the DSP RFP. And to account for time zones and honestly everyone's sanity in not having too many hours in one RFP while attempting to parent and teach and all these other things that everyone has to navigate these days, we selected the time zones that were best for most everyone. It wasn't best for everyone, but it was best for the majority of the people. And people were quite patient with us, dialing in a bit early, but not too early, staying on a bit late, but not too late. And, you know, we ensured that communication was at its tip top, that we were constantly communicating, and that we were quite structured in the way that this was set up.
I love it. And it's great to hear how quickly you're able to pivot, how flexible everyone was, and then also just how understanding and empathetic the leads were in understanding that we can't make people work 24 hours a day. There's a whole new set of variables that we're dealing with work from home and having children. So I really respect it, and I think it's fantastic. That's how you approached it. So do you think some of the updates that you've made to your overall communication strategy will stick once offices reopen, or do you see things going back to the way they were?
I do think some of it will stick. I think our larger communications will stick as well, because individuals will expect more real-time engagement in different social platforms. But on top of what we're saying, I actually do think that we should continue to run virtual RFPs. I think it's a much better way to include more people that genuinely want to be engaged. And I think that, doing it while individuals are traveling is difficult, because still not everyone can be there. And when you put some people physical and some people virtual, it makes a pretty bad experience for everyone on the line who are equally as important just because they couldn't be there. I also think that we'll continue to make them more and more collaborative as additional technologies come out that enable new types of collaboration.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the big challenges in the beginning of COVID was, are people engaged? Are they listening? I have no idea. I'm presenting to the ether. So getting people to be involved is so important. And I can't wait to see, as more technologies emerge coming out of this crisis, it's going to be very interesting to see how the ways of working change. So I guess just to wrap us up, like, you've done a few things in 3 years, Ms. Mervis.
Yeah, I think it's time I retire. No, I'm kidding. No, so the next step, I'm just gonna move to Greece.
I just think you need to take a nap. That's it's a really long nap. But tell us all, like, what's next? You've accomplished a lot. I just want to know, like, what's next for you? What's next for Nestle? Give us a tease.
So the next step here is really just operationalizing these use cases. So we have these great use cases that we've selected incredible technology providers. Now we have to take those use cases, bring it to life, and pair it all together. We don't want each of these technologies to be in silo. We want them to be very connected. And we need to bring all of this upskilling and new ways of working to life to have the total end-to-end vision come to life in true operationalization. And that sounds simple, but I'm sure it won't be. I'm sure it'll be quite exciting over the next 18 months.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anyone can do it, I think that you can definitely lead this team into making that a reality. So this was so cool. I know that we do have some time for questions and answers. I believe that Pearl is going to be hopping back in to help with that moderating. Not seeing anything on the chat. Oh, Pearl, hi. She's like, I've been here the entire time. In addition to however
invisibly watching.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see if I can pull up these. I can't find the questions, but one question I have for you is, like, what are you looking forward to in 2021? Do you have any exciting things coming out? Just give us a little preview.
Yeah, so 2021, we're really going to be operationalizing the vision for DSP, ad verification, and DCO. So we're really going to be operationalizing our audience first vision, both above market and within market, as well as integrating DCO into various different components that will everyone stay tuned for. That's not that we're not sharing out yet. Apologies. We can share a lot, but not that yet. Additionally, we'll be rolling out our ad verification, our new provider, to really raise our media quality, and we'll start to do a lot there, even having a new currency for how we buy and measure our media, all reliant on this ad verification provider, and ultimately connecting it into the DSP so that this new currency can also become a buying algorithm as well as an optimization algorithm. And all of these we intend on linking together.
Very exciting. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Rachel and Kendra. I mean, Rachel, our community is mostly brand marketers, so they love hearing all about the nerdy programmatic and media stuff. So we hope to have you back again soon. Alrighty. Well, now we're thrilled to introduce our last session of the day. We have Kelly Lane from Genexa and Robert Wallace from Tallwave. Kelly is currently the Chief Marketing Officer at Genexa. Genexa is a D2C, a direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical brand that is a clean alternative to the over-the-counter medicine and so they don't use artificial ingredients. This fireside chat will be moderated by Robert Wallace, partner at Tallwave. Welcome to the stage, Kelly and Robert.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Good. I can hear you both perfectly.
Yeah, I just sat in on the last two sessions, and they're amazing. So they set the bar high for us, Kelly. So we'll have to try to bring it home here at the end of the day. As mentioned, my name's Robert Wallace. I'm a partner at Tallwave. We're a customer experience design firm, and I am incredibly honored and grateful that I get a chance to speak to Kelly Lane a little bit more today. I got to know her a little bit this morning as we prepped for this at Genexa, and it's pretty inspiring what the brand intends to do, so I'm excited to do that. Kelly, maybe we could just take a couple minutes for you to introduce yourself before we dig right in.
Sure. So I am Kelly. I have been with Genexa since January of this year. Prior to that, I did a lot of work in the brand strategy consultancy space with a company called Co-Collective, who I will always hold near and dear to my heart because they were the first place that I really I spent the better part of a decade or so in advertising in a lot of the big Mad Men type shops up and down Madison Avenue. And Co was where I really cut my teeth at moving further upstream into more of the business strategy, how you build brands from the inside out. And I'm really excited, and feel really fortunate to do that with Genexa for the past 11 months now. It's crazy to say that.
Yeah, it is crazy. So what I thought we'd do, we're at the brand's at-home event, so I thought we'd talk about the brand first, and then talk about the at-home part of it, the direct-to-consumer second. Everyone on this call has a little soft spot in their heart for branding and brand management, obviously. And to me, a big part of brand management is differentiation and trying to establish a category of one, as the famous book often talks about, is sort of a holy grail. And you guys have tried to do that by defining this idea of clean medicine. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that means, how clean medicine is some real estate that you're trying to establish yourself and own in the minds of the consumers?
Yeah, of course. So if you think about all of the industries that have gone clean, right? There's been skincare and beauty and automotive and food and beverage, and I could talk for this entire hour about those industries and the leaders that, kind of the Davids that took on the Goliaths in those industries. And what Genexa is doing, right? We are on the path to doing, and that we have a lot in plan over the next few years. But we are essentially creating the same, using the same active ingredient that are in all of the medicines that we all have taken and have given our kids for decades. We are using the same acetaminophen, the same diphenhydramine, the same active ingredient, which is the reason you take the medicine, and replacing all of the inactive ingredients, which essentially make up anywhere from 90 to 98% of that formulation. They're there to color, to bind, to preserve, to taste. We're cleaning up the inactives. Right. And that's a really big idea, because if you think about how, a lot of the leading brands, the pain and fever medicines or the allergy medicines came to be, they've really not been innovated for decades. They were formulations that were created in the 80s. And we know a lot more about what clean ingredients are today and what we should be putting in our bodies. And that's what we mean by clean medicine, right? We're taking out all of the dirty ingredients, all of the ingredients that could be potentially harmful, and replacing them with organic, natural, better for you, clean ingredients.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that. That's a differentiated message, but it is in a crowded space. It is largely in over-the-counter medicines and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about how you push that differentiated message into the market, whether that be, I would assume, some education. Why is this important? And how do you do that authentically and stay with your brand and what your founders had envisioned for the company?
Yes, so it might be helpful to talk a little bit about that founder story. The two founders are two dads, and when they both had their second children on the way, they sat down for dinner and they were talking about the medicines that they were being recommended to them by their pediatricians and what they had already been giving their first children, and it shocked them. They could not believe how red and how colorful and how the unpronounceable ingredients on the back of the cartons. And they, fundamentally, they wanted to create better options for their kids and their kids' kids and for communities at large. That's a really authentic story, right? It's a very true story to who our founders are and to how everybody at Genexa thinks and feels, and the values that we all share. And so when we think about, activating the brand, so to speak, when we think about trying to get that message out to different communities, it felt, no pun intended, the most authentic way for us to do that was to be authentic, right? So we really started more of in kind of a grassroots manner and a strategy, and getting that message into a person's hands and a person's mind and heart, and explaining to them that, the propylene glycol that's in their kids' medicines that's in their cupboard is the poisonous ingredient that's in some really big leading brands that, I gave my kids a few years ago too, because I didn't know any better. Right. So we really think about that kind of on a one-to-one level, because the best, especially with medicine, especially with health, like, you trust other people, right? People trust people. And so we really needed to think about how to activate from the bottom up and not just kind of launch a traditional marketing campaign.
Yeah. Have you found that being more challenging, like given the current 8 months or so? Obviously health is a big deal. Trust in your health and the information you're getting is an even bigger deal. Have you found that impacting anything in your marketing or your approach?
So the one of the silver linings perhaps of the pandemic is health has been more top of mind than ever before in the US and abroad. And I think the first step to change is understanding what needs to change, right? That's the knowledge part that you were just talking about. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. It's education and getting people to have that same aha moment that there are other healthier, cleaner options out there is step number one. I think it has been harder in some instances and easier in some ways than others, because people are spending more time, kind of going back to basics, if you will. They're spending more time with the people that they love and care with, because sometimes they're forced to stay in their own homes, and sometimes they're, prioritizing FaceTime videos with family members or friends that they, life gets busy and you forget to connect with people sometimes. So I do think that side of it, it's actually been a blessing.
Yeah.
Because the people that have been the most passionate about what we're doing are connecting with other people that they love and care about. But it's been harder for sure from a brick and mortar retail perspective, right? Like you see foot traffic's been down. We saw The Economist sent that report out a few months ago that the cold and flu season is flat this year because people aren't out and about, which is a good thing. We don't want people to be sick, but we also don't want people to be scared to leave their homes and scared to get sick. We should feel confident that we have medicines for when we do get sick that can help us get better.
Yeah. So that's a good segue. There's a lot of up and coming and very cool DTC brands out right now. And some of them have segued into in-store as well with some of the bigger retailers. Harry's comes to mind and some others. But you do both. You sell direct to the consumer, and then you also have opened up some big channels with CVS and I believe Walgreens and some others. Tell us, one, I'd be interested just to hear about how your company approached those two channels, opening them both up at the same time. So why don't we start there for a second?
So we made the strategic decision before the pandemic was even a thing, right? A few years ago, to have an omni-channel strategy. We did not just want to be present in brick and mortars. We did not just want to be D2C. We did not just want to sell on Amazon or some of those other online marketplaces. And the reason for that was because consumers shop and need medicine in different need states, right? Sometimes you need it. This morning, my second daughter woke up with a fever and I needed to run to CVS and get more pain and fever, Genexa pain and fever because I was out. And so I needed it in that moment. I needed to have it available within a mile of my home to go get it and pick it up. But if I'm just thinking about stocking up or being prepared or cleaning out, right? There's a lot of expired medicines in people's homes these days. I have a little bit of time to plan for some of those other medicines that I may need. And so we wanted to make sure that we were letting the consumer drive where we sold, not relying on, the D2C trend or the kind of age-old pharmaceutical industry trend of strictly brick and mortar. And that's actually made us be more present, more readily available for consumers when they need us most.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I'm dating myself a little, but when e-commerce first came on the scene in the first place, there was always this talk about cannibalization. If you opened up an online store, would you be cannibalizing your existing channel?
Right.
And some companies thought, well, we have a catalog. If we open up a store, will that cannibalize each other? And the reality is the pie just got bigger. And I've heard the term, and you just said it eloquently, but I've heard the term a 360-degree brand, that it doesn't really matter where they're buying it. You just want them to be able to get a Genexa product whenever that need state happens to hit. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
One's not going to steal from the other. You're going to use whatever happens to get you what you need at that particular time.
And to let the customer tell you what they need and where they need it and when they need it, right? Like, I'm not here to demand that everybody go buy this one thing at this, one outlet. I think that people shop, especially now in a digital age, right? Especially now with the pandemic, where you're relying even more on your digital apps and your shopping lists and your delivery systems. I think that it's more important than ever for us to let the customer tell us what they need, where they want to get it, and when they need it by.
Yeah. Tell us about, that's a good point about customer data and customer information and getting closer to the customer in general. How do you all think about that? And how do you, from a practical standpoint, how do you make sure that you're doing the best to maximize all this data that's coming in from people and making sure that you see it and get the right feedback at the right time and then act on it appropriately?
We have great partners around us, like I think most brands do, right? You get your agency team members who are experts in X, Y, and Z. And we are obsessed with customer intelligence, customer data. And I know that it feels cliche because I think everybody says that and wants to believe it in some way. But, our quest, our mission, the reason that Genexa gets up every day is to put people over everything. That is the true, like our founder says, I wake up every morning and ask myself, how am I doing that today? From supply chain decisions to ingredients to the sourcing to the packaging to our marketing to all aspects of the business. We're striving to put people over everything. And that drives how we collect data, how we treat that data, how we use that data. And I think, if you look at the back of our products, one of the founders' phone number is literally on every box. You can text him, he'll text you back. We've really tried to remove the barriers that I think have existed in pharmaceutical brands for decades, because again, health is probably the most personal thing that you can have for you and your family and your friends. And I think that we just think it's really important to be opening those doors to have those conversations with customers and respond.
I think that's really amazing and cool. How do you see that once the company continues to grow and scale? Where do you see that perhaps playing out, or how do you think that you are thinking about sustaining that as the company grows?
Yeah, I think that Max might be a busy guy as more people text him, but if you do text him and you do have a chat with him, you'll find that you're the one trying to get him off the phone, because he loves to connect with people. He loves to talk and just understand what drives you. It keeps everybody in touch with the customer. Both of our founders have Founder Fridays, where they actually have a few hours blocked every Friday afternoon to call up customers and talk to them. And on our Monday all company meeting, our customer service team reads out reviews that people have given us that past week. So, I think that you have to commit to it as you scale, right? It gets harder as you scale because you have more customers and more data and more commentary. But you have to commit to it. And there have been some very successful big companies that have built their entire business around excellent customer service. And so I think if you commit to it, you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your marketing mix look like? You're trying to push out some broad awareness and education tactics out into the marketplace. You have traditional retail and direct to consumer. Where do you place your bets, so to speak, in the marketing mix? Are you doing a lot of social? Are you doing a lot of paid media? Are you doing offline advertising?
So we optimize daily, which is fun, right? Yeah, we are optimizing daily based on primarily in digital, because you're able to get so much feedback so quickly. We're optimizing, the right the kind of message that people want and respond to, and taking, social discourse analysis into how we actually speak and communicate with customers. But it's really about, offline, online. It's about supporting all of our partners. It's about coming back to what we were just talking about, being ready for a customer when they are ready to buy us, and making sure that we're building a marketing mix that, of course, builds awareness for the brand. Genexa is a relatively new company, and not enough people know about it yet. But also supporting the customers that do, and making sure that they're getting some first looks if we have some things available earlier, and innovating with them and listening to them as we think about our product pipeline and what we're actually going to be developing over the next few years. But the marketing mix is, I was actually joking with one of our founders a few days ago that it's both science and art, right? Every good marketer knows you have to build from the science, but then there's always a little bit of art on top, and And that's actually where marketers, I think, feel most comfortable. They like being in that kind of sweet spot of like, this is intangible, this is intuition, this is something I just feel, it feels right, right? But you have to have a baseline of intelligence and data to build from.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. So we've been talking about how to reach them wherever they need to be reached in whatever way they want to reach. Amazon is sort of indelibly in almost all of our lives every day. Seemed like I ordered something Sunday and it showed up Sunday afternoon. It was bizarre to me still, but it does happen. And you guys do some selling on Amazon. How do you think about it? I know I've heard various stories about Amazon, how to leverage Amazon as a channel, how to make sure that it's making up the proper percentage of your business, et cetera. How does Genexa think about Amazon?
It's a great question. We've, especially given past 7 or 8 months or so where you look at just the reports of Amazon's quarterly earnings compared to some other retailers, and we all know what trajectory their business has gone in the past few months and will continue to go. We think of Amazon as a media platform because that's what it is, right? Like, yes, it is a sales channel, but more and more people are coming there to discover. More and more people are actually in the aisles and going to Amazon on their phones to learn about this product versus that product, right? In some ways, it's an education tool, a billboard that moves around with your consumer at shelf. We've spent a lot of time, with one of our partners who's a phenomenal Amazon agency, really fine tuning and listening to the customer again, and tracking what's working and what's not, and how are we more present when they need us to be. But we've really shifted our thinking in the past year or so to Amazon as a media platform, not just a sales channel.
So does that mean search? Just thinking about Amazon search, paid placement inside of Amazon, all of the above. How are you thinking? There's all sorts of tools in Amazon. It's so
all of the
vast.
Above. It's all of the above. It's OTT video, right? It's leveraging the power of Amazon that they have created. And I've done some brand strategy work with them in a past life. So I've gotten a little bit of a sneak peek under that hood. And they have built an incredible business, I think that it's leveraging that in the right way. I also, I listen to probably too many podcasts, and there are quite a few about how Amazon's trying to take over the world and they're putting all of these small businesses out of business. And I think there is some truth to that as well. So I think it's also just about, remembering in the grand scheme of things, like, we don't want to live in a world where there are monopolies, and we want to make sure that we're giving small business a fair and equal shot. But at the end of the day, Amazon is a powerful tool for a lot of those businesses as well, right? They keep them in business in some ways. It is their exclusive sales channel. So there's a good and a bad to everything. Yeah.
If you can tell us a little bit about, let's shift to social for a little bit. There's, I know it's a little tricky with therapeutics and homeopathic space. That can get a little tricky. Sometimes you're limited in how you can market yourself. How do you guys factor that in, and how do you guys perhaps leverage social media to overcome some of the either education or skepticism or both, or maybe that doesn't come up for you guys?
No, it does. I think if you're active on social, it'll always come up. There's always someone that loves and hates what you're doing, right?
Sure.
We've really prioritized our own social platforms in the past 2 quarters, because if you look around at, especially what other pharmaceutical businesses are doing, but we don't even necessarily think of them as our competitors, right? We think about the other brands that are occupying people's mind and heart space. They're taking up the bandwidth that they have right now, which is more limited than ever. Those are our beacons. Those are the companies that we respect and we emulate and we analyze, because we want to learn from what they're doing and the passion and the following and the community that they've built. And so we've really prioritized our own social platforms as our community, the heartbeat of our community. It's where, again, you're removing all of those barriers. You have a one-to-one relationship with your followers, sometimes your naysayers. It's a place where you can show up and hopefully be your authentic self, and stand up for your beliefs. And I think that, we've found, coming back to that people to people strategy, right? The grassroots activation strategy, we really prioritized creating one-on-one relationships with average people. They're called influencers, I guess, in some ways, but they have, they're you and me. They have a couple of hundred followers maybe, who are probably their, friends, family, and maybe some old colleagues and classmates. And making the time and space to have conversations with them so that they can help share our message because they share our passion.
Do you do sampling with those folks too? Or how do you work?
We've done a little bit of sampling. Yeah, we've done a little bit of sampling. We don't just blanket sample. We don't just send product out there. We try to have a conversation. We always have a conversation first. And we've actually seen some incredible traction from, I just talked about those micro influencers, the you and me's of the world, right? But we've seen some really incredible traction from some very big name celebrities who we had a conversation with them. We sent them some product and they wanted to share it. We're not paying them to do that. But the Jessica Alba posted, and Gwyneth Paltrow, and some really big, Kelly LeVeque, who's a really well-known health and wellness tastemaker, I guess you could call her. Some really impressive people with platforms that they want to use those platforms to spread a message of clean and healthy living as well.
Yeah, and I would, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of clean and healthy products in other categories. And if you're already sort of an evangelist for that type of living, you probably have been waiting for stuff like Genexa to come out. And now you just want to, you can probably tap into that group as well, that already, you don't have to sell them on why it's important. They already know why.
Right. I wish I had a dime for every person that's told me this year, I can't believe this hasn't been done before. Or, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this? Or how is this even a thing? Like, our medicine is the stuff that has bad ingredients in it. Like, that's the most counterintuitive thought in the world, right? The things that are supposed to make you feel better, you would never think have ingredients that could harm you. So it's been a really, I love those conversations, because every time I'm like, I know, like, I have 2 young kids too. I know, right? It's a crazy,
and that's
crazy connection. It's a crazy connection moment, actually.
Right. And that's why the founders are so passionate about it, obviously, and you and everyone else. Right. It's pretty great. So, assuming 2021 is better than 2020, which
here's hoping.
Here's hoping. What's 2021 have in store for Genexa?
Quite a few things. I was just on a call this morning where we were talking about, how we're going to activate more of our relationships with healthcare professionals. We have a really robust pipeline that, we heard customers and helped prioritize what they want. And we also looked at just the dirtiness of different medicine categories. And we have quite a few products in the pipeline that we're working on that'll launch next year and the year after. And, we're ramping up, really trying to get more people aware of Genexa and in Genexa in their homes, because we just believe so deeply that everybody deserves to know and deserves access to clean medicine. It's why our medicines are priced at the price points they are. They're not marked up like most better for you products. And we just fundamentally believe that we need to create better health for communities in this country.
Yeah. Let's see. How have you? Well, you mentioned this. I'm looking through some of the questions that have come through here real quick. So just on time, we're almost out of time. Do you look at emerging media channels? How do they factor into your overall strategy?
So we have emerging social channels that our social team in-house we give them the freedom to experiment with. So we just allocate a portion of our monthly budget for them to have some fun. Obviously, they have to kind of strategically think through that, but we want to give them some room to test and learn and pivot. And we actually did an activation on Animal Crossing last month, which was really fun. I am not a gamer. I said many times on the team calls, like, I just don't totally get this, but okay, like, all right, I'm trusting you guys here. And it was really successful. We had some really good feedback and turnout from it. We're actively experimenting with TikTok, and a pharmaceutical brand on TikTok is kind of an interesting thought. But we like to think of ourselves as a different kind of pharma. But yeah, I think our strategy of it, the question you asked, the way we think about it is there's always going to be something new and exciting, and you never know what's going to take off. So we like to think about it as, hiring really smart, connected, in touch people and giving them the room to experiment and kind of have fun.
Safely do it too, right? Like some of them aren't going to work either, right?
Exactly.
I don't just mean safe so they don't hurt themselves. I just mean right. I just mean some of them aren't going to work out. Some of those channels won't work. So truthfully, I don't even know what Animal Crossing is, if I'm being honest.
It's a gaming platform on Nintendo Switch. I've learned all about it the past month.
I've learned that on our little talk today. So I wonder, are we out of time? Is Pearl coming back on? Let me see if I can. Okay, here's another one. What has been your most successful marketing program to date, at least?
So last month we launched a program called Ditch the Dirty, which was really an education program, right? It was aimed at, in a non-scare, we don't want to fearmonger, we don't want to freak anybody out, right? But we do want people to be aware of what they are putting in their bodies. And so we issued this challenge for folks to ditch the dirty, to actually go look at the ingredients that are in their medicines and assess for themselves. Are they dirty? Do you want propylene glycol, which is the poisonous ingredient that's an antifreeze? That's a leading question, right? Do you want red dyes? Do you want talc? Do you want these ingredients that are in your medicines if you don't have to have them in your medicines? And by the way, many of them are allergens and cause adverse reactions. So we launched Ditch the Dirty back in October. We had a tremendous response from it. And most critically, the intent of that program was, we believe so deeply in our product that we actually offered free medicine to anyone that committed to ditching the dirty, right? So we gave a free bottle of their choice of Genexa so that they could try it without risk, and see it's the same effectiveness, it's the same active ingredients, like I said. And so we wanted to get more people into our movement, into this belief that health and clean is possible for all.
It's a really cool way to do the sampling as well, right? It's like versus a mass program.
Yeah, just handing it out. Well, no one's in any streets of cities anymore, so sampling programs are kind of no more.
No one would take it if you were just handing it out. No one would put that in.
Exactly.
But thank you. It looks like Pearl's on, so I want to thank you personally.
Yes,
it's been great.
What a great conversation. Yes, I mean, it's inspiring to hear about the great things that Genexa is doing. It's so necessary. Brilliant that you guys are giving it out for free, because the first time I encountered Genexa was at Expo West, and I don't know how people are sampling things anymore. But that's a great way that's a great pivot. I mean, you guys have done a lot of interesting things going to Animal Crossing and TikTok. Definitely taking some risks there, but that's great to hear that you guys are trying it and finding success.
Yeah, it's been fun. I tell the team, adversity can be fun if you can rise to it and find the fun in it. So it's been an interesting year for everybody, but the most important thing, I think, is to feel like what you're doing has an impact and to have fun while you're doing it,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, certainly you're doing it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks so much to you too. Yeah, hopefully we'll have you both again soon. I know we're going to have a sort of spin-off of Expo West come March, since they won't have it in person. So hopefully we can bring you back then.
That would be.
Yeah. So thanks so much to Kelly and Robert for closing out day one of our inaugural Brands at Home Summit. I know I personally took so much from each of these sessions. I'm all about clean ingredients and healthy products. So it's great to hear from Kelly from Genexa. They're doing such great things in that category. And also from the founders of Burn, totally pivoting in the fitness industry and making sure that they're targeting consumers in multiple verticals and making sure that they are not only in brick and mortar, but also click and mortar. Love that tagline. So we hope you all will join us for Brand Invaders tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for day 2 of Brand at Home. We will be joined by marketing leaders from Uncle Nearest, Kellogg, Parachute Home, KFC, Microsoft, Anheuser-Busch, and more. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and we hope to see you again